What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Real Spill, where we only spill the real. Make sure to hit the like button on your way in, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you get a notification every time we drop new content. Let's get into this conversation. Hey, y'all. Okay. So today we are going to be discussing the violence in the community and why it's happening. And what can we do to prevent it from being so drastic? How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's a discussion that should be had. What can we do to be involved in community, um, or just I guess doing our part, or what do we see to be the problem? Maybe minor to the bigger problem.
What do you think some of the triggers are that makes these things happen in the community?
Inadequate resources, I think, is one. Um, just not really. I'm feeling. I think community um, doesn't have like a family or a home feel. Is no one really wants to say anything. No one really wants to get involved in things. I think is a big thing.
I personally feel, um, our morals and values as a people ain't there no more, or not like it used to be. Um, I mean, black folks, we've always been impoverished. We've always had lack of resources. You know, but I mean, we wasn't always this violent toward one another. I mean, drugs have played a big part of of the violence. Um, but I think just overall, we got to get a better moral compass. You know?
I can agree with that. I just honestly think that a lot of it stems from a lot of jealousy, hate, envy. Just that is like the fuel line of why this problem is so big, because people are just walking around. You don't communicate with people anymore. You see somebody that has something better than you, and it's instant hate and envy. And then it leads to things, because for every action is a reaction, if that makes sense.
Right?
John, what's your thoughts?
I'm sorry, you guys know that I always multitask, and Sundays are my busiest days. So that I don't say anything. Hello, anyways, everybody. I don't want to say anything out of context. So can you rephrase your beginning statement? Because I think I know what the topic is, but I just want to have you repeat it so I don't miss my words, if that makes sense.
Okay, so let me give you a scenario. So last week we had a pretty busy weekend. It was Juneteenth weekend. There was a lot of people out, a lot of events going on, a lot of things of those nature. And according to the news, we had 7 shootings, few people lost their lives, Why do you think these kind of things are happening? Like, why is there so much hate and envy and jealousy within our community, and why we don't have like love anymore? Like, it's almost like there's no such thing as unity.
So I think that I think it's almost the concept of crabs in a bucket with us. Um, it's always like a competition. We don't have that unity. I've always said the reason why we don't have that unity and why we don't have that ultimate togetherness is because of our displacement. So, you know, through slavery, we were disconnected from Africa, and most other immigrants or migrants or people that are here from that are not native to America, they have a homeland. They have a home language. They can go somewhere. They have grandmothers they still know about in their homeland, from Mexico to China, even some English people, even people who are from Spain and people who are from Sweden, they all can go back home. So that leaves a connection financially. They have banks in their hometown that are connected to banks in America, so they have a financial connection, which is why you see more Hispanic people connecting with each other, more Hispanic people doing more collaborative things, living 15 people to a house, because they have that home connection. We don't have a home base. So we're literally like Americans, but because we have our special past of being stolen and picking up different people's like last name or whatever, uh, we don't have that solid base to connect to. So it's like we're nomadic. We have a home, but we really don't have a home. So it leads to the stuff that they did to disconnect us in the beginning, which was separating us from our culture, first of all, by tribe, so that we couldn't communicate with each other, and then separating our families and breaking them down and pulling family fathers apart, selling mothers off, selling kids off. And we still are reeling from that. That's why I feel like we don't have that connection, and it's so hard for us to be connected. You know, and then we've adopted the Western theory. So none of us like to live with nobody else because that's the Western theory is to be alone, to be by yourself, to have your own space, to grow up, get out of the house when you get 18. That's a Western thought, you know? But that's my opinion. That's how I feel about it.
So I understand what you're saying as far as that goes, but um what I would like to say is, at what point do we start to blame ourselves? Because at the end of the day, you really are only you can only be responsible for your actions in general. So when do we take our own fault? Like, it can't always be the suppressor, the colonizer, the white supremacy, the systematic racism. It can't always be that all the time. Like, at some point, we have to stand in our own shoes. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not for
So
everybody
you're
else.
right.
These are
It's not. You're right. We at some point in time we don't need to blame them anymore. We need to look forward. And looking forward, we have tried that. And so trying that, there's a fear factor, and it's not even blaming the oppressor. It's the fact that every time we do try to do something, it gets snatched up or something intervenes to stop it from happening all the way. You know, we created Kwanzaa, and Kwanzaa was snatched up and commercialized. So whenever we do something that is original, whatever, it becomes commercialized. So every time we go a certain route, it gets stopped. But okay, not putting the blame on nobody. I'm not saying no dropping no names. I didn't say nothing about no colonizers. Looking forward, I think that we should do something unique. I don't think that we should do something that we've been talking about. I don't think we should do what our ancestors have done. I don't think marching helps. I don't think going down to the courthouse. I don't think picking up arms is going to help. because each individual person might have guns, but we wouldn't win against some people. We didn't win
Nope.
in, and going to
No.
war, we're not going to win. We don't have enough people. It's just a fact. So, I mean, we
Well,
need
it's
to
more
think of
along the
something
lines
different, and that's
of
where I'm at.
even if we were to go to war, how are we going to go to war when all we do is war with each other for the most part? It's not like you're
But
seeing
I'm
on a
saying,
regular
even if we
basis us
don't
going
war
out
with
and
each
taking
other,
out other people.
it's not enough of us. Even if we don't war with each other, and we try to get together like Black Panthers or some, we can't go up against them. We will lose them. Just it's not. We physically don't have enough people. Just like if we go to war with China, we would lose if we have a land battle because there's three to one ratio or something like that with them and us. So it's the same thing. It's not enough African Americans, let alone if hypothetically we get together and we don't have enough ammunition. So
Which is
we
true,
need to
which
think of something
I think
different,
that's
or
something that we need to teach within the community. But again, like I was saying, if we continuously keep taking out each other, then we're just losing the numbers for us to be able to unite to do whatever it is that we eventually might have to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, at what point do we stop taking the lives of our brothers and sisters?
You make it sound like this ain't by design. Like, you know, we are miseducated, we are misinformed, we are directed. This is all by design, kid. Like, you can't, we don't always have the resources or the consciousness to know that we shouldn't be in this, is because this has been generational conditioning, right? And I just don't want us to forget that. Like, yes, we're killing each other. Yes, it's terrible. Yes, we shouldn't, but it's by design. So until we start to dismantle the design, at the same time, we're not getting too far. Because you just can't tell somebody out on these streets who's been in poverty all their life, who's been thugging all their life, who's been maybe murdering folk all their life, all of a sudden get your shit together and think that's gonna happen. You know what I
I
mean?
hear
right?
you.
Because the
I hear
mentality is
you.
the way that
So
it is.
I hear you. So this is why I feel like this conversation is important, because we do need to break down why this is happening. You know what I'm saying? We need to break it down. There have been things that have been placed within our community that contribute to it not being able to be broke down. For instance, I talk about the no snitching policy. Nobody ever wants to step in and say anything. Like, people just, it's like you condone it. If you don't say nothing, then you condone it. So I mean, it really doesn't stop. Like, if you see somebody getting riled up, you know what I'm saying? If you can intervene and just talk the person down a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Just to try to diffuse the situation. I think that's where the problem is.
No, maybe. Yes, I think we need to be more bold and be more accountable to how we step in, not call police and everything. But I want to also put it out here. Trauma, poverty, all of that comes with mental health illness, right? Like, we're dealing with a lot of mental health where things that would be logical and rational under a clean bill of mental health just don't add up the same way, right? And so when you're being triggered by your trauma, you ain't thinking rationally. You're in survival mode at that point. And black people, we're always triggered. We're always in survival mode. And if you've ever been on the opposite end of not being on survival mode, the shit is nice. But we don't have that privilege. And I'm not saying that there's not something we can't do, but the reality is that we are taking each other out. And I just don't want it to be like it's as easy as us saying don't do it. It's as easy as us saying like that's not right, because it's not that simple. Like, one of the things is poverty, right? Like, how do that's a lot of black people are in poverty, below the poverty line. How do you know what I mean, like, or they're, what I mean, we're talking about all of these black men who are in jail and all of these kids being raised without a father figure, you know what I mean? Like, and what that means. Yeah. And so I just think there's so many things that we have to correspond to in the immediate fashion, and the intermediate fashion, and long term. And these are plays that we're gonna have to simultaneously do at the same time. So yeah, we need to step in and be like, yo, you need to chill the hell out. Like, you shouldn't be doing that. Like, if you got, you know what I mean, if your neighbor is beating their wife on a regular basis and you just don't say nothing, or all you do is call the police, I don't know how much that's solving a problem either. But if you ain't doing nothing, like going over there, like, yo, like, stop beating on these kids and your wife, you know what I mean? Or you gonna have to face the community. You're gonna have to face the whole block.
Right.
But you know, that's part of the problem. What I mentioned earlier, like I said, because our moral compass ain't we don't have a cohesive moral compass like we used to. You know, back in, I think it probably stopped in the 90s when your neighbor could whip your kid's ass. You know what I'm saying? We got whooped by the neighbors, but nowadays, let your neighbor whoop your kid's butt because they over there acting up with your kid, and that parent is gonna want to beat you up. You see what I'm saying? The community can no longer discipline children. Only that parent of that child can these days. So we've got away from trusting each other. And you know what I'm saying? Other people in the community able to whoop your kid, that's trust. Trust in that person, that they have your kid's best interest in their heart, to where if they see your kid doing something with their kid and they both acting up, both of them getting whooped. Now you can't touch these kids because these ignorant ass parents, you know what I'm saying, don't trust the other parent that they have their children's best interest in their heart. You know, so like I said, we just got to get on the same moral page with each other. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, we had trust with each other. We did have more of a village community perspective, community and village, mindset in the past. But like I said, drugs really jacked up our moral compass. So the ramifications of like the crack era in the 90s, once crackheads and whatnot started having crack babies in the 90s, and a whole lot of stuff, a whole lot of moral cohesiveness just went out the door, went out the window.
Yeah.
How do we get that moral cohesiveness back and trust?
How, I don't know, that's a that's a question. I was thinking about, like, when you were talking about that village mentality, because I grew up that same way. When my mom gave my neighbors permission to beat me, I was like, man, that ain't right. But
It
my
helped
parents,
though. It molded us. Cause I'm telling you right now, when I be at the grandparents' house, man, if you do anything, boy, the minute you hit that block, you got Greg and Josephine on the corner. They talking stuff. They gonna get on you. You got two houses down where you got Aunt Lucy and Gerald. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was crazy. Like, back in the day, you just really the community just didn't tolerate. You know what I'm saying? Right. They just didn't tolerate. They didn't allow you to just get away with it. And I think that's where a lot of it has transpired, because everybody's like, oh, I mind the business that pays me. That don't help nothing.
Yeah, you're right. Hey, but what
nothing. Like, you can't just ignore it. You know what I'm saying?
No, you can't. And I think it's not just about ignore. You're right. I also think, let me be honest with you, when my mom gave the block permission to beat my ass, it was triggering for me, because as Black people, I know from slavery, we get this mentality where, we deal with any issues by beating each other, right? And so what's happening is that, that's how I deal with a solution. Someone's not, and then we carry that on. And so, where you're beating me for not my behavior, that's when I think, and I see something wrong, then I think that I need to also exhibit some violence. And we're not learning, and I'm not I'm not saying that's the case here, but we're not learning from we can't just approach bad behavior in one way, right? Like
Right.
although that accountability piece is important, like, yo, come here, like, you're messing up. Let me sit down and have a conversation with you. Let me tell you why what you're doing is wrong. Let me tell you how you can
Right.
do it better, right? You know, beating me is like, yeah, that might stop it right then, but then I'm gonna internalize that, and that's gonna affect my body and my mind, where I might take it out on my younger sister, right? Like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
beat your ass because I got beat. You know what I
Right.
mean? And so I think we have to be cognizant of that. I was also thinking, like, with step parents, right? Yo, if you're a step parent, I don't think a lot of step parents feel comfortable with disciplining the children that they're a step parent to. And I wonder, how does that impact the dynamic of our community, and maybe the lawlessness or the unaccountability that comes with, you know, our community.
I agree, because I feel like the lessons are not being taught. You know, somewhere along the line, someone forgot that as the elders started leaving, that someone else had to pick up had to pick that up. The torch had to been passed off. And whereas the torch, it's been dropped, those lessons still have to be taught, that, this is, I mean, because I think we forget that everything is not learn. I mean, a lot of things are learned, but most things are taught. And so, but if there's no one to learn from and no one's teaching, then we have a lot of lost people. We have a lost generation of what is right, what is wrong. And then instead of, when you are trying to correct someone, it doesn't feel like it's correction in love, And so I think it's just the lack of communication. We are quick to administer violence instead of talking. And that's hard, because you want to enforce the discipline, but where, what is too far, what is not far enough. It's just, where's those lessons, where do we bring it back to the tribe, as far as right and wrong, if that makes sense.
I was just gonna say, I don't necessarily agree with the violence aspect of it, because when I was coming up, I didn't actually get whooped by the neighbors. You know what I'm saying? Like, they would get me out of the situation, like diffuse the situation at hand, and then it's more of a talking to, and then they go and tell my grandparents, you know what I'm saying? And they wasn't having it. So while I might have got my ass whooped at home, the block wasn't whooping my ass, you know what I'm saying? But the block was checking me. And that, I think it needs to be more along the lines of like you need to step in and check them, because clearly it's something that they're not being taught in the home.
Agreed. The block was whooping my ass though.
So
well, you a boy, so I can see that.
But so I was gonna say, you ain't never got your ass whooped by your friend's parent on a sleepover?
Oh,
Because
I mean,
you were
I have, but it was only under certain circumstances. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I'm gonna admit, I was a badass kid. You know what I'm saying? I was a badass kid. I was always doing something I didn't have no business doing. So while I might have got popped one time, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh shit, like I wasn't supposed to do that. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like they was just whipping my ass. I went down the block and everybody came out with their paddle, like pow pow. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't one of those type of things. But yeah, I'm like, other people have whooped me. I can give y'all some examples, but it was more like along the lines, discipline came from family more than the neighbors, unless I was under their care. Like if we're having a sleepover or something like that, I'm doing something I ain't got no business, then yeah, they would discipline me, and then it would be a conversation with my parents. You know what I'm saying? After that.
Right.
Are we frozen?
Are we frozen?
No, we just
Okay.
had a moment of pause.
Oh, okay, yeah, like a serious thought process, like, yeah, what did happen? Because I'm just looking at it now, like, these younger kids now, the neighbors and the community was our age. You know what I'm saying? They was our age. So it is now up to us to pick that torch up and reinstill. Because I think over the last 2 decades, I'm gonna say nobody. There's no community correction.
Yeah. Well, I won't say no. I just think it's in none. I just think it's in small pockets. I also want to remember when it comes to, like, let's be real. When it comes to like us melanated people, we got the black people and we got niggas, right? And we gotta realize that, you know what I mean? Like, we can't save everybody. And people, there's always gonna be that nigga faction. You know what I mean? And so, like I said, we can't save everybody. I do think that we need to have some more a net of more cohesion where, as a community, where, because me telling you to, like, I me telling you to take care of my kids and keep my eyes on my kids, you still may not have the same values I have, right? Like,
Right.
you, and unless we're all on that same page, our moral compass is on the same page, then you might let something slide that ain't,
Mm-hmm.
that I wouldn't let slide.
Mm-hmm.
Or vice versa. You might hold somebody accountable that I like. You might, like, like, you did this thing, like, you were wearing, a skirt or something, like, I'm gonna tell your mom, or I'm gonna beat you, or whatever. I mean, I know that's a very silly example, but we can't have somebody holding us accountable who ain't under the same moral compass.
Yeah.
Which is true. But I also think that a lot of that plays a factor in it, because now, like, okay, so here we have another system that kind of stepped in and took that layer of discipline away. So the government stepped in and said you're no longer allowed to whoop your kids, right? With them doing that,
No,
lot
as
of
long as you
kids
don't leave a mark, you whoop them.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. But people took that as, I can't whoop my kids at all. You know what I'm saying? So they kids is out here bad as hell, and they're like, the parents have now become afraid of the children. Like, so now the children are running the fucking show, and they're doing whatever the hell they want to do, and nobody says anything to them. I think it's just going to take more people to step in and reinstill that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to take that back.
What if your parents don't uphold that, right? Like, what if you're getting pistol whipped in your house, you're getting beat on, like, you're doing drugs
I'm gonna turn your
inside,
ass into
you're
CPS.
You're doing drugs inside of the house. I'm just saying, you may not know all of that, right? You don't know all the trauma that's going on inside the house. And so, of course, when you're looking at a child, you're like, oh, you're bad. But again, bad behavior doesn't come from nowhere.
Right.
This is true. That's true.
Right. And that is where
that's where it takes community
trauma within the home that someone can be going through. So that is where it's having to, pay attention to that light bulb that is going off. Is this typical, sit your butt down, or is this something that's going on that is bigger than just some correction and, hey, sit your ass down, or hey, this is actually a call for mental health. You know what I'm saying? This is a crisis, and removal of the home. I mean, so it
so with saying that, how, just give me an idea of how you would deal with that. Because me working for the school district, I was in a district where there was an obscene amount of problems. You know what I'm saying? And like, I feel like I was able to get far within that community and make an impact because I let the kids have a voice. You know what I'm saying? Like, they felt comfortable enough to tell me things where I was able to either give them advice, or if I had to report things, you know what I'm saying? Like, how would you deal with that? How would you deal with that?
That's where it becomes, it's not even really thick skin, because to work around any children, I think it's hard right now, because you experience so many things. Like, for so many children, school is an outlet for them. And I think what we learned within the pandemic is that so many children we're forced to have to succumb to those, to those toxic environments. And so you still have to be that light, you still have to be that inspiration. But when it comes to things that, it takes a higher, a higher calling in, as far as, reporting them, then you have to do your part. Like, we can no longer sit back and excuse the things that we know we can't control. I mean, we can do our part, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I don't know, like, my heart just really goes out to, and I think that that's why I sometimes, you have to know your place, when it comes to that, because you have to do your part. I mean, because it's going to hurt to know that if you didn't say something, but at the same time, jumping the gun can make something worse, so I don't know, I think it's having that open communication, with all parties. It's not just having that open communication with the children, it's also trying to have an open communication with the parents. I mean, but like you said, it's those two different kind of us. It's those ones that are going to be open, and then it's going to be those ones that you ain't telling me a damn thing, get the fuck out my face, and it is what it is. And so that's where your calling becomes even harder, because it's
Am
like,
I wrong?
to a
Am I
stand.
wrong when a kid comes at me like that? Am I wrong for checking their ass? Because I do that. I
Check
do
them as
that.
an,
You don't get to tell me shit, talking, being all disrespectful. I don't tolerate that. You know what I'm saying?
You
So
shouldn't.
whatever you throw at me, I'm going to check your ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just what it is. I'm gonna put you back in your place. I don't know what you're doing at home, but with me, you're not gonna do that. And what I've come to find is that when those kids see that they can't slide with you, they gravitate to you.
I agree. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
like older generations. We still, even regardless if we know all the problems, we still gotta have like this level, this standard of excellence, right? And I think that is really important. But I think this technological era has allowed us to be hands off, right? Like,
Right.
we don't want to say something, because it also becomes like, we don't want to deal with the problems of, like, oh, maybe the parents are going to come retaliate, or maybe this kid is going to come retaliate again, because everything you're saying, Kia, is in the realm of normal mental health, right? Now, what happens when you're not in your right mind? How, like, and that's what I'm saying, like, there's so much to consider, right? There's so much to, like, that influences the way we interact with ourselves and people. And so, like, even thinking about, like, say you're a young person and you out here in these streets wilding, but that's what you learn, right? Because again, like, let's just talk about gang banging, right? Again, you just don't like get that from nowhere. You get it from your family members, you get it from your community, and we're talking about generations. And so, but even if there's like trauma inside the home and we recognize it, and we're like, okay, how do I be accountable? We call some mental health services to get them over there, and perhaps maybe they take all the children, because it could be more than just one person experiencing as a child, right?
Right.
That the idea of the Stockholm syndrome is like, yo, you fall in love with your captor, the person that captures you, right? And so even though your parents are bringing you drama and trauma, the idea of being separated from them and the rest of your brothers and sisters could activate even more trauma, and it could be even worse. And we don't know that, right? We don't know that for sure. And so, it's just really tricky.
That's so true.
So what do you do?
I think we still
Mind
no
your business?
no. I still think we need to have a standard of excellence. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that it's not as easy as us saying, hey, stop it. Like, it's not as easy as us.
I mean, I'm just saying, I just feel like society has made us very sensitive. You know what I'm saying? And so now people, they kind of tiptoe around situations, walk on eggshells, real, like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, at what point do we take it back? We have to take it back. We can't just let this keep going, because the more you tiptoe and sugarcoat and ignore, stay quiet, mind your business, this is why we are so far gone. At some point,
you think it makes us more sensitive? I feel like people are less sensitive. We are desensitized to murder, to
Desensitized.
drugs, to
Yeah.
all. We like okay, cool. We see so much of it. When we see it, it's like, oh, that's just normal. You know what I mean? Like that shit is I think we're desensitized. Where we don't feel for our neighbors. Like we don't even feel like we be in the zone, we be locked into whatever we're doing. Like you don't even feel what other people are going through and react and respond. Like how many people have we passed on the street who have these signs up saying that they need money or they need resources, and we just count them in as like, oh, you're a part of the people who are trying to get me. You know what I mean? And there might literally be a need for something, but I don't know. I think we're more. But I
I
But
can
also will
agree. I
say,
can agree
it's
with the
both.
desensitized. I can
But it's
agree that
both.
we are to an extent. Exactly, we are definitely
It's
both.
both. When talking directly, like I said, don't know about you. We got this whole sentiment nowadays. Can't nobody judge me. Can't nobody tell me shit. So when you do try to correct somebody, that's where the sensitivity will come out at. Now, when you see other people's plight, that's where the desensitivity comes. Because shit, I got my own damn problems. I can't worry about that other person's problem. You know. So it's on both sides. You know, there's a desensitivity when it comes to others, but it's a sensitivity if somebody try to check us on our bullshit, on our personal shit. So it's a little bit of both.
And I think that's where a
one of
lot
the
of the
solutions.
madness comes from, though, because when you do go to correct someone, you know what I'm saying, or you try to step in and diffuse a situation, or you call somebody on their shit, you know what I'm saying? People get in their feelings and then they instantly react off of emotion. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
Right.
that's a problem.
Well, yeah. So I think again, it's really trying to. Like, there's a few things we could do, right? Like one of the things I've identified is like, just having more men involved in, like, more men teachers, more men social workers. You know what I mean? Just having men step up in a way that, because like I be in a lot of these circles because of the work that I do when it comes to volunteering and just whatever I do. It'd be a lot of women, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like sometimes the men are absent from the picture of the solution. Sometimes, and a lot of that is because we've been in our gender roles. We are providers, right? First and foremost, for the ones who adhere to that. But that protection piece, you know, has only been extended to the few that we know, right? The small, our family, maybe our community, but like we're not, I would see that as a problem. Also, showing like, because like you said, the emotional piece, like I said, we do something, we get beat for it. Or, and this is, I'm only going from my sense, right? In my family, we do something, and like we get shunned or shamed or guilted for it. So we really are not exploring how to deal with our emotions at a young place. And so when we get older, it's just out the window. Like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know how to respond to anything except anger or detachment. That's not. So when you call me out, it's like, fuck you. Instead, like, you know what? Like, let me go ahead and do some reflection. Maybe there's some, what I mean? And like, I don't know, like and when people do that, they also don't have that. There's a level of disrespect that they have, and I don't know. Like, is that something we gotta cultivate younger in people? What respect looks like? But when they're like, "Fuck you," you don't know. I'm like, there's because we're only gonna take counsel from people we respect.
Right.
Well, respect is the foundation of any and all relationships. And like I said, you could see that switch in our community, pre civil rights, post civil rights. But with the post civil rights stuff, like I said, that's when our community started to get flooded with heroin in the 70s, crack in the 80s. So, it really destroyed, our sense of community, our sense of togetherness. We became more selfish, like I said, minding our own business instead of trying to look out for the community. One reason why we don't have a sense of community is because we stopped owning. We used to own before the civil rights. I think we own like 60% of the businesses in the Black community pre-civil rights. Shoot, we own less than 10% now, like 6% of our businesses that we own in our community. So we don't have a sense of ownership. We're renters, so to speak. And I don't know if any of y'all are landlords like me or not, but most people don't take care of other people's stuff the same way they would their own. Uh, this is why you see a lot of littering in the community. Nobody cares. And on top of all this, I've come up with my own theory on our condition, on one of our conditions, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard of walking pneumonia.
I have.
Yeah, you basically, you're walking around, it's not hitting you very, very hard, but you got it. And then, like my dad, he had walking pneumonia for 2 weeks before he ended up getting hospitalized. So my theory on us as a people, we have walking depression, and in that walking depression, I think because, the connotation with depression is, oh, you're sitting in a damn dark room, not leaving your house, maybe not bathing for a couple of days, crying your ass off. No, depression comes in different levels and different stages, and depression has different looks. We're functioning. It's like a functioning addict can have a job every day and then come home and just binge every day and then get back up every morning and go to work. Well, that's us with our depression, our walking depression. We're depressed and don't even know it. But you can see the depression come out via our actions. Like I said, via the violence, via how we act toward each other, via, like I said, the sensitivity. Oh, you can't tell me shit, and you want to go off on somebody and the first thing we want to do is get violent with each other. Just for saying something, trying to correct behavior, and I think that's largely due to we have an underlying depression that's subconscious. Most people aren't even aware of it, and it's really affecting how we deal with each other. Like I said, you add the drugs, you add the other, negative social constructs that are out there, and it's just a gumbo pot of mess.
I agree with you 100%. What I will say is that is something that is majorly wrong within our community, is that a lot of our people do not even believe in therapy, counseling. They don't believe in that. They don't want to go and sit and talk to a stranger. They feel like they're going to be judged and whatever, and they don't understand the tools that come with that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just going to take it a step further and say, can everybody on this call give me a time where they've diffused the situation?
Hey, real quick, I want to, before we answer that, real quick before I answer that, or we answer that, a lot of that, what you're talking about, is because when we go sit down to therapists, it be white people who don't know us and can't relate to our situations. And so if we have more Black therapists, if we have more Black people being honest and transparent about, I go to therapy, like that helps. Just like us having more Black teachers, right? Or more Black doctors. It's shown that when we have more Black doctors, more Black people are willing to go to the doctor.
And I get exactly what you're saying, but you know what else I've come to figure out as far as like people with the therapy and how they feel about it is a lot of them, therapists per se, have not actually walked the walk. You cannot analyze people based off of a book. If you don't understand what they're actually going through, you can't sit down and tell me something. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I feel like these conversations are super major important, because instead of you going and seeking out a doctor, you can come and sit in here and listen to us have these conversations. And if you got something to put in on it, come up and talk about it. It's just a conversation. You know what I'm saying? It's easier to relate to when people are walking the same walk as you.
So can I give you an example?
Yep.
Okay, I was a correctional therapist. I worked 3 years at Denver Women's and DRDC. So I got to witness all the different levels of people that were incarcerated for different crimes and how they would be rehabilitated. So the method for Denver, Colorado in rehabilitating their people is medicine. And so the therapist would not, they'd be there maybe an hour per person because of the ratio. They did not have a lot of therapists. They were overworked. They had too many cases. So they would have to do the minimum with these offenders and give them medicine. So every morning when I be getting ready to get off work, because I work graves, the offenders be running. It don't matter what pod they from, what level of crime they've done. They put all of them on medicine. They be running to the nurse's station in the morning. Every one of them. Every offender gets medicine in the morning, at night, all the time. So that's an example of even us as a race, because most of the people that are incarcerated are people of color. And that's just a fact for the state of Colorado. It's disproportionate. They have not addressed it, but it's the truth. So all they do is give you medicine. And then when they release these prisoners, you don't get that continued medication. They give you enough to handle a week, and then that's it. You're on your own.
I can agree that they do like to push medication heavily, and not always is medication really going to help. Majority of the time, if you just listen to somebody talk, you can probably contribute to something that will change their perspective or how they're feeling or how they're viewing the situation. You know what I'm saying? It just takes really us as people to step in and talk to people. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to communicate with people, because a lot of people don't even know how to communicate. But if you're talking to them at a level that they can understand and you're relatable, the likelihood that you can change the outcome of what could have been a potential situation is so much higher.
I agree. And also I just wanted to add, you know, I agree and disagree on the whole fact of, you know, if a therapist isn't Black, then, you know, they can't help us, they can't understand us. I agree and disagree at the same time.
Right.
Because first off, Black folks, we're not a monolith, culturally, economically. I mean, every Black therapist didn't grow up in the projects. You see what I'm saying? So it's like you might go to a Black therapist, and they were some well-to-do folk who grandparents was college graduates, parents were college graduates living in the suburbs. So we can't sit up here and just say that, you know, if a person isn't Black, then they can't understand. Now,
No, that's not what I was saying. To interrupt you, I'm sorry. But what I was saying is that we're more likely, Black people are more likely to go and experience therapy if they see somebody who looks like them.
Well, I'll tell you like this: we are in a crisis, and we cannot wait for more college graduates in psychology and therapy. You know what I'm saying? We just can't. We're in a crisis. We can't wait that long. We can't wait that long for more Black doctors. Like, for instance, I think Black pediatricians only make up 5% of all pediatricians in America. We're 12, 13%. You see what I'm saying? That's not enough to take. You know, that's not enough to care for the Black community if, you know, Black people just only wanted to go to Black doctors. So we can't wait until those careers catch up with our population. We just can't. We're gonna have to take a leap of faith and go take chances on other people.
I can totally agree with you on that, D, because I can say that best thing that helped me along my journey was my therapist and going to therapy. It provided the tools, coping skills, and just depending on the situation. Now, I did have a psychologist that did want to push, for the meds, but then I also, continued to search, and then that was something that helped me because then that was more focused on yoga, aromatherapy, more things that But then don't get me wrong, that there's also things that are chemically wrong that sometimes that medication does help, and that's something that it does take the research, it does take the support in that, and I think that just within the mental health community is something that I think just really the journey that I've been on with my daughter, and trying to just her journey with trying to commit suicide, and just the things that I'm dealing with her right now. She just turned 18. um, that's been my biggest support, has been the mental health. She's also caught up right now with the diversion system, so it's different things that are in our life, but the biggest thing has been just that mental health, because without mental health, then you're nothing. And I think that the biggest thing, as far as when it does come to mental health, it is centered around, with just what Dee and Stu was saying, was it's just about protection, ownership. That walking depression, and that walking depression is centered around that lack of protection that we don't have, from many of us don't have from our fathers. And so a lot of us don't know how to react to that correction, because it's, hey, I didn't even have a dad telling me, who are you? And so I think that that's really important to change that narrative, is that hey, I may not birth you, but I care about you. I care about you enough to say, hey, young man, pull your pants up. You want to get a haircut. You want to hit this gym. Hey, young sister, I care enough about you. So it's, I definitely think that, and just when it comes to just diffusing situations and learning to, not necessarily when it comes to diffusing situations, choosing our battles, but just to know when is enough to step in, and to hoping that when you're stepping in, that you're being received in love, and not of who the hell do you think you are. It's like, hey, I want to see you do better. We have to do better than this. And but I think, like you said, it's just where has that moral compass gone? But I think it just really comes back to just the protection and ownership of feeling like you do have someone that has your back. Um, and I don't think, it's just how do we get that back?
I was just gonna say that I think that we've gone so far into the false perceptions that have been put out here that people just can't even be honest anymore. You know what I'm saying? Honesty is something that people have a really hard time facing. One. Two, we have a world of social media platforms where everything that goes on, people have to make it some form of entertainment. And that also prevents people from stepping in and diffusing situations. You know what I'm saying? They're just more in it for the entertainment aspect of it. People love drama. Like they go towards that. They don't like the positivity aspect or not having that moment. You know what I'm saying? Like there's just it's so much to it. And I honestly feel like with therapy, again, we don't have those people who are like relatable to individuals who need to go seek the counseling and things of that nature. So it does take real people. Like all of us on this panel, all of us have experiences and things of that nature. And you never know, something that you say could resonate in another person. You know what I'm saying? The way that you approach the situation could have a different outcome. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's what it's going to take at this point.
I mean, and it is having to, I think, step in the approach, but then it's about how you stand in that. Because last weekend, I had a situation where my neighbor stirred up his son, and as a woman, as a community, I'm out here trying to assess the situation, and then you have men that are just standing there looking at me like, what am I doing? I'm like, it's he needs help. So I mean, you still have to stand in that, but it's I don't know. And like you said, it's things that are driven by drama, but you have to know that now, even it goes back to just morals. Like anything that's right is not going to be okay in what society. I mean, you can take social media right now. You put a positive post, you're lucky enough to get 2 likes. You get on there, you put something about drama, and you got 99 likes, you got 55 shares. Like that thing will go so viral. You get up and you try to put inspiration, I mean, and you continue to do that because it's not the likes that you're looking for. You're hoping that that will resonate with someone that is willing to continue on. I mean, you still have to keep going. You still have to be willing to do the work because, like it was said, we're not going to save everyone, but you're just hoping that the more you continue to do it, it will catch on. Is my hope.
You right, because if I was opposed to me crip walking right now compared to me doing the Holy Ghost, oh man, like I'm probably gonna get more from the crip walking. Now I will say you did ask something, Kia, about when's the last time stepped in, and although I think that's really important to consider, yo, that's still reactive, right? Like we gotta be proactive, right? And we
Right.
gotta like let's go volunteer at these centers, or we gotta do something before the
Yes.
point is like, wait, whoa, well, I stopped you from doing it. Like we gotta do something beforehand, right?
Right.
It shouldn't even get to that point. And so, you know, reactive is how we are as a humans. We are very reactive, and we got to be more proactive.
I agree.
Yeah, well,
You
with
know
the
what I think?
proactive. Oh, go ahead, Don.
I think we can go and get some land and start establishing ourselves as communities for real, because right now we keep saying community, but we really don't have nothing. Like gentrification has been going on for the past decade or so. So we don't really have like even the projects in Denver are like real tiny now. We don't. We used to have big projects where it was all mostly black people, low income, but
Hmm.
now we don't really got that. They
Right.
provide, they moved everybody out the community, so people's houses to people's property, all that. So and there's nothing there. Like the little projects we have out here are maybe 4 blocks long, if even that. And
Yeah, but our assets are not in what we have; it's in our people right now.
Right. I was
You
gonna
know,
say
and
that.
our
We have to start
people.
with our people
Yeah,
first. Our people are the ones that are losing their lives. You know what I'm saying? It's not like people are coming and taking their land and things of that nature. Our people are taking our people. We got to start with us. Like we can't even begin to crack the conversation on the land portion of it. Like right now, we need to get on a level where
But I think we need. But I think we do.
have a location. I think that's where we can start to repair ourselves and start to heal ourselves and start therapizing, doing our own therapy and different types of rehabilitation on ourselves if we have our own stuff, our own land, our own houses, see us in our own places, not like Atlanta where there's just a lot of us, but none of us really own a whole lot of Atlanta. I mean, where we actually own the land to build on it, to put some places where we can create our own stuff, because that's what I think needs to come before us trying to have therapy and stuff. Because if not, we're not together. We're still blending and incorporating every other nationality. If we're starting to talk about how can we move to be that type of a community that can each one teach one, or that kind of a community that can be accountable for the neighbor, we can't have that if we ain't got no land and no houses on it.
Right.
Well, let me
we're
say
still
this.
a part of the community, though. I mean, you still live somewhere. You know what I'm saying?
But let me say this. We have so many issues that unfortunately we cannot attack one and then go to the next, and then we have to attack a few of them at a time, unfortunately. And that's what makes things hard, because it's hard to teach. It's I would say in this day and age, and the very materialistically driven society we're in, it's gonna be hard to teach people black love, black pride, and they going back to the damn projects where they don't see black love, black pride in that neighborhood. It's hard to teach black pride, black, you know what I'm saying, being in a classroom teaching all this black love and black pride, and you know, they don't own anything. You know, I honestly think we're gonna have to attack the social economics issues at the same time. Our social issues and economic issues at the same time. That's just my belief.
I don't
Because
disagree. I don't disagree with
well,
you about
but
that
but but
at all.
but let me say this real quick here, because if you attack the economic side, hey, you know, a fool and his money will soon be departed. You see what I'm saying? So you could give him the economic education, but if he ain't got no love for his people and he still got hate, you know, we got that Willie Lynch syndrome toward each other. We just gonna squander off the money.
Mhm.
So that's what I'm saying. We got to do it simultaneously.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna tap into this here for a second. Okay, so we have these gangs, right? We have gangs, we have motorcycle clubs, we have these all these individual clubs, right? They consider themselves to be foot soldiers for that actual gang. What is so wrong with turning the narrative towards something greater? Be foot soldiers for the community. Don't bang with these other people that look like you because they wear a separate color or they are a part of another name. You know what I'm saying? Those are the people that should be hitting the pavement to help the community build as a whole. Because just like Monique was saying, like the incident that happened with her neighbor, you have men standing around watching this woman diffuse the situation and looking at her like, what are you doing? Well, you are establishing a community organization. Why are you not stepping in and saying anything?
Yeah, there are, you know what I mean? I see motorcycle clubs that are out here doing it. You know what I mean? And so
I'm saying I said the same thing because when I thought about it, I was like, okay, so when I look at other communities, white communities, Mexican communities, their motorcycle clubs, they are the foot soldiers of their race, if you will. They don't tolerate that madness, and when things are going awry, they don't just allow it to fester and build and blow up. You know what I'm saying? They step in and they diffuse the situations for the most part. I'm not going to say it happens all the time, but for the most part, that's what they do. But our people don't do that, and I don't understand why they don't do that.
but I'm saying we have. Well, I'm saying we do. We have motorcycle clubs that are our people that are being proactive and reactive to our community needs, right? But unfortunately, you know, the perception is that they're bad people. You know, even if they are doing these things, you know what I mean. And so the black people may not support them, or you know, or throwing their resources into them because they're a motorcycle club.
Well, not just that, but I mean, let's just be honest. We black folks is fucked up. We don't have a group mentality like these other races because we're those other races are not as destroyed as us. They have not been through what we've been through, and you know, and had these, you know, messed up mentalities passed down generationally. We have an individualistic mindset. You know, the crab in the barrel mindset. That's what a lot of us suffer from. We don't practice group economics like other races. Why? Because we don't trust each other. We have a lot of self-hatred toward each other. You know, so as far as going out into the communities, that would be, and in gangs and whatnot, getting along, that would take a group mentality, something that we have lost for the most part.
For the most part, yeah, I believe that, but I am also hopeful enough to believe that if we stick with it and not give up, then we can stand strong. I mean, I don't really know what it's gonna take, but I think it's just we have to continue to show up. And again, it's not just and when it does come to community, it just doesn't mean showing up on your corner. It means showing up at the state level, the city level. Just I continue to you know to be that reflection, to be that light, to let people know that it doesn't matter what your economic status is. To a certain extent, it does not mean that your voice cannot be heard. It does not mean that your voice does not matter. You have to continue to talk. You have to continue to speak. You have to continue to scream, because you don't know who's listening. You don't know who that is going to spark to say that, what, hey, change does need to happen. um, because it can't be done alone, for sure. But I just don't. I'm just not ready to give up on us as a people. I mean, but again, it's still that we're not going to save everyone, but we can't stop. We can't stop fighting.
Yo, so Kia, I actually I just reached out to my boy who's in the motorcycle club. I'm gonna send a link to him if you don't mind him partaking in this conversation.
Please have him come in. Please have him come in, because I really would like to hear his perspective. Because from what I see, again, it's just one of those things where I don't see more of them patrolling. You know what I'm saying? More of, like I said, the foot soldier aspect.
Well, but motorcycle clubs are a very small percentage of street organizations. For one, you got to understand the dynamics of a motorcycle club, right? These are grown folks. Gangs are a teenage phenomenon. Motorcycle clubs are made by grown folks. So they're on some more grown folk ish, right? But like I said, street gangs, that's comprised of a lot of teenagers, young minded, ignorant, you know, just
But
reckless.
those
You know what I'm
teenagers have
saying?
OGs. So I mean,
Yeah, but those OGs were once that young mindedness as well. And if those OGs suffer from arrested development, which a lot of them do, they're not reaching back and teaching these youngins properly. They just, OGs just kind of fade away, and they just become non-active, as opposed to going back and actually each one teach one, reach one. You see what I'm saying? They just become non-active and just get to raising their families and doing their own thing, as opposed to really going back and schooling these youngins. Now these youngins they the ones running wild. They the ones doing all the dirt. You know. So yeah, that's the problem. I mean, that's just the issue there as far as coming together. Yeah, you can get some OGs to come together from different neighborhoods and different sets. You know what I'm saying? You can see that all the time, because a lot of them has forged relationships over time, just whether it's street, combat, or they being in the penitentiary, and you having to, because you black, you got to watch each other's back, so you form relationships with rivals. But these youngins, they haven't had the time yet to formulate relationships and respect for their so-called enemies. You know what I'm saying? And they just haven't got the maturity level to understand that, yo, man, we black at the end of the day. Yeah, we from different streets and we banging on each other, but we black. So a lot of them just haven't reached that maturity level uh, to grasp that aspect.
I also feel like we don't have OGs out there anymore. They all either dead or in jail. So you don't have that real factor out there to have anyone really mentor.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them are dead and in jail. You know what I'm saying? A lot of them are. But there's a lot of them on the streets. But like I said, they just seem to fade away, you know what I'm saying? And just you get to doing other stuff, you
Naja in the
know.
comments, Naja in the comments says, I used to hear people when Nipsey passed that some gangs are partially a benefit to the community.
And that's what I'm saying. Like,
Mm.
I just don't understand why we have this. You know what I'm saying? Like, why they don't feel like they could be a benefit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's all the proof is in the pudding. Really, is what it is. They're so busy tearing down the community that you can't be a benefit if you're not contributing to the community besides destruction.
No, what she's saying is that some people are saying gangs are beneficial in some ways to the community.
Can she elaborate? Because like I said, we all know absolute power corrupts absolutely. You know what I'm saying? You give young people, uneducated, for the most part, uneducated people power in a group setting, more than likely they're going to abuse it and do the wrong thing with it.
So I have a suggestion. Why don't we all just get together and form a nonprofit and go ahead and start something that will pull the youth out of these horrible situations or plights or their economic statuses and go a direction like that. Like, let's put our money where our mouth is, because we can talk every Sunday about this, but if nothing happening, then we just having a conversation.
I believe it's in October. The city opens up funds where you can propose something and it has to benefit towards youth. I'll look into all the details, but if you propose something to the city that is stating that you're willing to help youth, the money is out there. It's just
Yeah, but you need
what
to
is it? What is it that you're willing to do, and what and how are in the presentation? If the presentation looks right and you're really right in what you want to say, then they'll give it to you.
But
The money is out
I
there.
don't think it's as easy as you're saying, because you need a good grant writer. I've been dealt with the city of Denver and different.
When it's based upon youth, when it's based upon getting the money that's I'm just saying for youth. When it's a grant that's opened up every October and it's based upon youth. It has to be specifically for the youth. It's nothing else. It cannot be used for anything else but youth.
Right, but anybody can't just walk off the street. You have to have someone skilled.
I understand that. I'm saying exactly. So, but if you look at the grant, it's not that hard. So what I'm saying is you're saying nonprofit, but what I'm saying is that the money is out there. If you're genuine in what you're saying, then if you read behind the lines in the presentation, and that would be something as just doing an event at Juneteenth, getting carnivals, resources, things that is for the youth. And if you sit back and you really pay attention, I'm talking about the children. That's what everyone is forgetting is that the children are looking. We could talk all day about what's right and what's wrong. We could talk about gangbanging. We could talk this and talk about that. But the whole thing is that no one is thinking about the children. We forget about what's going on with the children.
So
I don't.
who has a nonprofit in here that can do that and pursue those grants?
I do. I mean, I have
And I as
nonprofits,
well, like
but
LLC,
you know what?
that you can present it. And like I said, it's based upon youth. I'm not saying that it's not that hard, but again, it's about youth. I'm not talking about the grants within the city. But again, it's not just about showing up. It's about having the resources, the backing, know what you speak of. And then, and like I said, you don't stop. The fight does not stop. But be informed about what you're talking about, and then you confront it. But you have to have the resources, you have to have the knowledge, and you have to have the tools.
I wanted to touch on a couple of things. We just got the person into the room that's in a motorcycle club, so I really wanted to get that perspective since he's here. But also, I wanted to say, like, we don't have to recreate the wheel. There's a lot of organizations out here, like the Struggle of Love Foundation, who are helping these young people out. The favors families against violent acts. There are people and organizations who are already doing the work that we're talking about. It's just really, how do we tie in there's a street fraternity. These are all for young people who are dealing with you know they're on the streets in some cases and doing some of the behavior that we're talking about, takes away from us as a community. So I was even telling Kia, like, she should come volunteer for street frat, right? Because they have a lot of men who who come and volunteer, but there needs to be that female perspective too. You know, give them some game from that side of the tracks, and so it's just really about us plugging into things that already exist. And then I'll be quiet here, and Key, if you want to ask a few questions of um, our new guest.
Okay, so I didn't peep who that was. Let me see.
It's Jamal.
Oh, is it Jamal? Okay, Jamal, can you come in and explain a little bit about your organization and what your organization does as far as benefits to the community?
Okay, my organization. So, hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Jamal. I go by TD in my club. The organization that I'm with is Street Soldiers. As to the community, we do different acts or events. I mean, where we hand out food to the homeless, and/or we do bike washes, as we have in the past for the Platinum Divas, in order to raise money for either uniforms, the competitions, etc. in the past. We have sought out to look for other teams that are looking for this type of community involvement, but this is sometimes on a case-by-case basis. We have participated in the MLK Parade and also the Juneteenth as security and logistics over the last 4 years. But that's about it. And that's what I've actually put my organization into, since I'm already involved in it.
Okay, I can respect that. I wanted to ask another question as far as your organization goes. What kind of mentorships and things for the youth does your organization offer?
Mentorships, we haven't really had anything in place. We do stand as role models for any of the family members, children, whether it be boys or girls, in place of whether they need tutors or they just need a kind of like the Boys and Girls Club, except it's a league of men who actually pitch in to help out either cause. I mean, whether it's your kid needing chocolate bot or you need donations for something, we'll show up for any of the family members that actually need that. But we don't actually have a mentorship that is in place with our organization.
Do you guys offer, I would say, like street protection as far as like communities go? Like, do you guys go and make your presence known within our troubled communities or anything of that nature?
Yes. I mean, Street Soldiers actually originates from Montbello itself, and there's a lot of involvement with people within our organization that are deep within the streets, that if need be, yes, we will go and make a heavy presence if need be, and by request. We've shown up for graduations. We've done things with the Struggle of Love. I don't know if you guys know Dwayne, DJ Squirrel. You probably know him as he's part of our organization as well. He does a lot of events with them, and he's one of our largest representatives in that faction. But we haven't participated in many events this past year.
Okay, I wanted to open up the floor if anyone else had any more questions, because that was kind of what I kind of wanted to understand about, like, as far as your club goes, because that goes right back to what I was saying, like, as far as thinking about the youth, because at the end of the day, we are becoming their elders, and we are going to have to start stepping in to get them guided in the right direction, because clearly it's not something that's being instilled in the home. And so that's what I was saying as far as like the gangs and the motorcycle clubs and things of that nature. What are we doing to get the community to stop turning against itself? You know what I'm saying? Like that's my major thing with the gangs and the clubs.
Oh, was that a question for me?
No, I was just simply opening up the floor for anyone else who might have had questions pertaining to your organization.
I wanted to also, as we're thinking about youth and we kind of, you know, there is an accountability that we also have to have to our friends and to our peers. You know, as a man, yeah, I mean, like I can honestly say I don't have any friends that are not present dads, right? And just holding our friends accountable to when they're not showing up in a way that represents excellence, and then also being, you know, open to being held accountable too. I think that's really one of the easiest places we can start in the relationships that we have respect, right? Like, don't let your, you know what I mean? If you see your friend beating on their kids to the point where it's, abuse, maybe you got to say something. Or, yeah, I mean, if you see somebody, messing off their life for drugs, like, you got to say something. We can't just let our friends get away with subpar behavior and vice versa. And so while we're thinking about how do we change the larger community, there are some simple things that we can do within our friendships and our relationships that
And I agree with you. I agree with you 100% because I'm like, a lot of you guys on this panel know me and y'all know me well. And y'all know that I always have something to say. I always call somebody on whatever I feel that they're not doing that's correct. You know what I'm saying? But it takes more people with that same mentality to start making a change. It can't just be 1, 2 people, 10 people, 100 people. Don't everybody speak at once.
So what I want to I wanted to Jamal one time. I was in a relationship, and he was like, "Man, listen." He's like, "I ain't cheating, so I ain't gonna allow you to be cheating." Like, he was like, "I don't like that's not where we're at." And he made me feel really uncomfortable. Like, what you mean? I can't tell you about it. He's like, "Nope, nope. If he's like, I don't want to. You shouldn't be doing it. And if you are doing it, like you shouldn't. Like, and I, I appreciate that, because I was like, damn, then, like, he's just not gonna let me get away with bad behavior. Also allowing himself to, allowing me to check him too, like holding each other accountable. Even like I said, it's simple. It could be as simple as like having we got a fitness challenge this month, right? Like, like, we're here to help each other with health. You push me, I'm gonna push you. And I think, again, we're talking about these larger concepts, but sometimes it just starts with our relationships. Like, I'm having some mental health issues. Like, do you know a therapist I can go to? You know what I mean? Like, or, hey, you know what I mean? I've been really thinking about my behavior in public. Do you think I'm wild? Do you think I'm tripping out? Like, these are things that we can do, because honestly, one of the best ways we can make changes in the world is just being the change we wish to see in the world. And it all starts with us, and it can start with just conversations and accountability to the people you see the most.
With you saying that, that goes back to the original question that I asked about um, a time where you stepped in and diffused the situation. I personally do hold my friends to a higher standard. You know what I'm saying? When I see something, I say something, and I expect them to do the same. So I would like to hear everybody's diffusion story and if they hold their friends accountable the way that they would hold themselves accountable.
Yeah, I
I
think
mean, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, D.
Well, I was gonna say, there's so many. Kia know the crowd I hang with. So I mean, one of my nicknames is the cooler because everything around me got to be cool or else there's a problem. You know. So, like I said, I got a million examples of diffusing situations, stopping homies from fighting each other, and just stupid, wild stuff like that. I mean, gunplay. Nope, no, don't do that. No, you don't want to shoot him. No, don't do that. Yeah, so I mean, just growing up in the gangbang atmosphere, you know what I'm saying, in that whole world, and just in the streets since a kid, like there's a million examples I can give you. You know, but Kia, you guys don't know me. Kia knows me, so she knows how I move and how I, and how I conduct myself. So I don't conduct myself like a silly, unruly type of person. I'm a very principled person, man of respect and reason. I try and reason with a person, as long as it's respectful. Once it gets disrespectful, then we got a problem. But like I said, I mean, I'm one of those type of guys. I diffuse stuff all the time. So
I guess, piggybacking on what Christian said, it like you said, is the relationships. Um, he is one of my best friends, and I've held him accountable at any point, and I hold mostly anybody accountable at all points because we seek excellence, and we're also business partners. So in diffusion, everything isn't always about violence. Unless it has to get to that. But it's about helping that next person grow. And if you don't have a relationship established with them, establish one. Check on them. You never know what saying hey might do for someone. In order to spur that moment to do something else, in your same vision. And I get that from Christian a lot. I envy this man. That he's a lot of why I am the person I am today, in all its actuality. But yeah, I've always had to defuse situations. I care about everyone. Even my position as a street soldier, I have to take watch of many older brothers and little sisters and little brothers and sisters. Um, constantly. Gunplay, or even in the MLK Parade or Juneteenth, where I was working security this weekend. There's so many different ways to diffuse something without having to touch someone, just by just offering a smile and maybe some help. Not every situation will be the same, but again, it does come to the relationships that you have with people. If you don't create them in order to emulate who you are, like Christian said, if I wasn't cheating, I can't deal with you. I can't. It makes me uncomfortable to be around you. So put on the people or hold people accountable to the same standard that you hold your own self to when nobody's looking. That is integrity.
I think he makes a really good point because sometimes diffusing is just regulating your energy. Like if I see a room that's tense, man, just smiling, it can change everything, right? And so, as we think about the external world and how we can have some level of control of the external world, you know, I think a lot of it starts with us. You know, if you, how are you going to diffuse your own tension, your own anger, your own mental health, right? Like, if you can start there and start regulating you, then the rest of the world just seems to fall in place, in my personal opinion.
And I totally agree. But sometimes you got ignorant ass people that are not receptive or conscious of energy.
True.
So, that they're not absorbing your cool and calm energy, for whatever reason.
And that's what we said earlier. Like, those are the niggas.
Right.
And
Okay,
just for
sorry guys, I had an
clarification,
emergency. Go
and
ahead.
I was just saying, just for clarification, niggas is not like a color either. You know what I mean? Like, to me, it's more a mentality.
Yeah, the ignorance of it all for sure.
Yes.
Does anyone else have a diffusion story?
You got one
I
for
think
us?
just people.
Go ahead, Monique. You're breaking up.
Can you hear me? Just so happen
You're
to
really robotic. Wait, go out and come back in. You got a really bad connection.
Okay.
I have a lot of diffusion stories. Just like Dee said, we kind of hang out with the same people. When we go out, there are issues that arise, and I always do step in and try to talk people off the ledge from reacting in a negative way. Like, I don't really like to see anybody in a situation that can land them in the hands of the law. So, I mean, as far as that goes, it's across the board. I'm just one of those people, like, I just really don't condone violence. And I feel like the best thing for me to do is to always, if I see something, say something. Hold on, you don't have to do that. It's not worth it. You know what I mean? It's just not worth it. And so that would be my diffusion story, because I have a number of them. I can break it down smaller if you would like me to.
Wait, so your diffusion stories are call the police on somebody?
No. That's not what I said at all, man. I said if I see a situation, I do step in and talk the situation down to explain to them it's not worth it. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather not stand by and be entertained by the drama so that they end up in the hands of the law. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to see that for anyone.
So I got another question for you, Kia. When is it appropriate in your mind to call the police?
When you have to, of course. Like, okay, so let me give you an example. Okay, so say I'm riding down the street, right? Some individuals are having a situation. You try to get the attention. If you can't get the attention, then at that point, you don't want it to escalate to the point where innocent people are victims of that situation. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that would be one of the times where you would have to. It just depends on the circumstance. The first thing you always want to do is try to handle it within community, but sometimes the shit is out of your control and you really just can't.
Okay. How about when was the last time you called the police?
I haven't had to call the police in a while.
Ever?
I think the last time I had to call the police was, well, as we know, I live on this busy street. People drive like reckless idiots all the time. When something happens, I have to let the law know. But outside of that, like having to call the police on particular situations where I'm at, no, I've never had that situation because I'm usually able to diffuse the situation before it gets to that magnitude.
I'm interested in like other panels' responses about when is the last time they called the police or when is an appropriate time to call the police?
So I can give you two examples. Was somebody else getting ready to say something?
No, go ahead.
That was D.
Okay, one example, and this is FYI for all y'all to understand. If you get into an emergency situation, if you call the police, call 911 for a medical purpose, and you don't tell them, or you fail to disclose the urgency of the situation, like I did with my mom, I just told them that her leg had broke, and because I did that, they put her on secondary call, which means that the ambulance comes with traffic instead of sirens blaring, and it caused a whole problem. So I guess they have a system. They ask you a series of questions. So if you ever want them to come with sirens blaring within 5 minutes instead of 20, you have to specifically either say somebody is sick or passed out, and I was told that by an EMT person. So you have to really use certain wording if you want them to come, if it's like a medical emergency. So that was the first thing. The second thing, my neighborhood where I live, it's two black people on the block, and it's me and another black family, and they have domestics all the time. They fight all the time, and our houses are made right next to each other. Like my bathroom, I have to have a window up so that their bedroom doesn't look into my bathroom. So do I call the police on them all the time because it gets really violent, and because we're the only two people on the block, I feel some kind of way like we representing, but I don't call the police. Why? Because they get back together all the time. So it don't matter how bad it gets. And she's pregnant again, and they have about 4 or 5 kids or whatever, and family members get involved. So since I've been back with my mom about maybe 2 or 3 months, I've seen them have about 5 different fights, not including the ones where the wife has had fights with other people, other women coming to the house. And it's such a toxic environment, and the kids are involved. And the last time, I believe the great aunt or the grandmother was involved in the fight, and they was all walking around with do-rags on their head from the fight, talking about why you didn't help jump in. And did I call the police? Nope. I just looked at them because it's going to happen regardless. And if I start calling, it's going to be counterproductive.
Okay.
That's a good story.
Go ahead. You said, when was the last time you called the police?
When's the last time you called the police, or when is an appropriate time to call the police?
I mean, I think the most appropriate time for anyone to call the police is when someone is in danger or your own life's in danger. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. I mean, some cases, I mean, depending on what it is, domestic violence, and a fight, you never know it can go down. I've seen it go bad in certain situations, being black.
So,
Go ahead.
You broke up a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did y'all hear that last part? So
Now you got some really bad connectivity issues.
The last time I called the police, quick. All right, give me 1 second. Just walking outside real quick. All right, can you guys hear me better now?
I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so see what it was saying. The last time I called the police was when I pulled up to my house and someone was trying to steal my motorcycle, and I pulled a gun on him. We fought in the parking lot. After that, my wife had the gun trained on both of us. She called the police to make them aware that she was going to shoot him. And yeah, they came, arrested the other guy, took my story and everything, documented the bruises, and that was pretty much it. That was the last time I had to call the police. That was about 2 months ago.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Okay, Monique, are you available to tell us your time?
Can you hear me? Is that better now?
Yep, you're good.
Oh, what was you saying? Diffusing the situation.
Oh, no. The question is, when is the last time you called the police, or when is an appropriate time to call the police?
It was also your diffusion story. You broke up when you were telling that.
Oh yeah.
Um, Unfortunately, last time I had to call the police was on my child. When the appropriate time, it was just really it was a mental distress call. And I couldn't stop the situation. And prior to that, I didn't call the police, but it was because my neighbors were getting into a physical altercation, and my son, I was 14 at the time, he told me, Mom, don't go out there, don't go out there. But so I went out there, and I'm telling him, you guys stop, and he had stopped wrestling with her. But I had looked across the street and I had seen it was about maybe 4 or 5 young brothers that I know that, they seen him out there whooping on her. And so at this point, I'm like, he done stopped beating on her, but now he's about to get beat for beating on her. So he's walking towards the corner. I walked towards the corner. But I knew by the time I got to the corner, they had already, had started, jumping on him and stuff. And so I told him to stop. And, one of the young men, he went back and kicked him again, but they stopped. The police weren't called, but um I could say that prior to that, they had been getting into a domestic probably every other night. But after that, I didn't hear them fighting no more, So now if the police were called, that situation probably could have been handled differently. But I was just thankful that, the young brothers listened and she wasn't hurt. His head was kind of stinging, but I don't know who was stinging worse. I mean, her head, his head, so it's trauma, it's trauma, but at the same time, still having to do your part, like, doing your part because it it's going to be a situation where my children are going to need that, what I mean? So that's the way I look at it, is that I'm just trying to pay it forward, but at the same time of paying it forward, I have to sit humbly in correction, because I don't have it all together. I don't know everything, and I don't have a problem with being corrected if I'm wrong. I think that's the biggest thing too. So yeah, last time I called the police was on my daughter, and not calling the police, I think, saved some young men from getting a ticket, as well as maybe another man from domestic violence. But did that change maybe him hitting on her? I don't know, but he didn't do it outside anymore.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
No, you're welcome.
Still give us your
Oh,
story. Oh, okay. Go ahead, D.
no, I was gonna say, I've only called the police one time, and that was 2007. I came back from vacation and my car was stolen. So just to document that. But yeah, I really don't deal with the police like that. I mean, I'll call an ambulance, medical emergency, but I really don't. I have no use for the police as far as just me in general. I don't need them for protection. I don't need them for anything really. So uh, I'm not a big proponent of calling the police. So
All right. So my relationship with the police has changed over time. I still don't. So I call the police way more often now, but it's not in reaction to situations, right? You know, and so I've never called like the operator. I can't recall calling the operator and saying, "Hey, you know, I need you to report to this." Um, what's the appropriate time? I don't know. Like I've had my car vandalized, like somebody threw a center block through my windshield. You know, like on my block, there's a lot of drug usage. There's a lot of vandalism in the houses. There's prostitution. There's a lot that maybe you would feel is appropriate to call the police, and I don't do it. One, like for instance, with my vehicle, I didn't call the police because nobody saw it. There was no evidence. There was like it would have just mean more data for them that I reported this, right? We already have one of the highest crime rates. I know that. So reporting more crime, like you know, like this, it skews the numbers, you know, in the neighborhood, and so maybe it makes it seem more dangerous than it really is. And when a neighborhood feels more dangerous, then what happens? The prices of houses are lower. You know, gentrification and displacement is more of a reality. So okay, if I'm gonna call them, like I would like some justice to be done, and there's not much justice, you know, in calling the police. And so, you know, even with the stuff that happens, there's a lady who was squatting, you know, on the property, and she's bringing a lot of crime into the neighborhood. You know, like it's going through her. She's not necessarily doing it, but my neighbors call on her all the time. Like the cops said, they get called like 200 times from our neighborhood. So then what's that mean? That means then everything is just classified as like it's not. It's we when you inflate calls like that, like you don't know what's real and what's not real. Uh, and so I think it and not every so was an appropriate time maybe if I'm seeing you know like somebody about to get murdered or perhaps a murder itself. um I would think that's it. So and then going back to my other comment, so I call the police now more often because I'm doing a lot of planning with them around what we call citizen patrol groups. And so these are groups that communities put together to patrol their streets, and then they are trained um, how to be this citizen patrol. So it's your community that's walking around being accountable. The police are an important partnership, of course, but you know, a lot of this stuff can be diffused by our community in an organized fashion. And so I actually have more conversations with police, but more so in bridging a gap that I believe happens in our police system. Like they don't they don't live in our neighborhoods. They don't represent us. Like that, it doesn't. They don't. I don't know. And I believe too with police, when you give your power away, then you're powerless. And I believe that people have given their power to police to respond and be these protectors, and forgotten that we're protectors ourselves. I digress.
So it's absolutely safe to say that most people do contact police for medical emergencies only. Is that a fair assessment to make?
Yes.
So we do have, based on this call, we have a solid foundation of community policing. With that being said, I don't understand why there is so much unsolved crime
You want us to solve every crime?
No, 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 no. I'm not saying that at all. More along the lines of, because people witness things like that. It's just the nature of people. People are nosy, period, right? So, with no one calling the police really for active crime, and I'm going to say shootings and fights and things of that nature, why do we have so much? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's where that no snitching policy comes in at, which I really hate.
Well, I mean that only really applies to street cats. Uh, Unfortunately, I think a lot of civilians, have adopted that for whatever damn reason. I don't know. But no, law-abiding citizens are supposed to do what law-abiding citizens are supposed to do, and that's protect their community, call the police if something ain't right. That's what law-abiding citizens are supposed to do. I would never consider that snitching.
Me neither. Man, hey, so I also got a question. Like, let's think about, even broader, right? Because I do think that people, like, when you don't know your neighbors, you don't know your people, it's easy to be disconnected from them, like and everything they're going through, right? And so when you live in a neighborhood where it's a bunch of renters and people are coming and going, you don't really get close to people who live around you, because the shit can change at any moment. And so I don't. Again, that's when we get to that's their business, right? Like, they come and then go. We are so disconnected to the people around us, that it's easy for things to go unnoticed.
That's very true.
Like,
I agree with
how
that.
many people know 4 or 5 of your neighbors' names and spend time with them?
I used to do that, and it kind of backfired. So I tend not to do that now. Where I'm located at, like, there'll be pleasantries, there'll be a name introduction. You know what I'm saying? But like, as far as spending time with them, no, I don't do that.
It depends on circumstances.
You got more bad connection.
How about you, Monique? So like you said, you knew those people that you intervened with, right? Like, you knew the neighbors and you knew the people who jumped.
No,
Oh,
no. See, I had just moved over there. Maybe I probably was there not even maybe a month, because before I moved there, my previous home I had lived in for 10 years, so I knew everyone there. But it was very interesting, because I felt like, they were so used to the people that did rent in that home to not care, like, and that's something that I tried to instill in my children, like, like home ownership. I'm like, yeah, looking at what I said I should be now where I'm at, okay, I can't fault that, but it's still taking pride in where I live. So no, that's what was so crazy. It's like, I didn't know them. And matter of fact, it was so crazy because it was like right before 4th of July, and I had just moved in, and so it was, and I didn't know the 4 or 5 cats that was walking across the street. But I think what had drawn me to that was because 2 weeks prior to that, my children's sibling had just lost a brother, and then one of my friends had just lost her son. So that was 2 young men that I had knew that, it was close enough that I'm like, I have to do something, like, I have to do something. And so, I mean, and that passion still doesn't stop, don't get me wrong, but it's still having to assess the things that I got, within my personal life, and making sure that I'm in sound mind to be able to sit in that, because I don't want to lead anyone down a deeper path than, or, down destruction, or down anything deeper than they already in. Like, I want to be of light, or inspiration. I definitely don't want to be anything that is going to cause harm to anyone. And so if I'm not in tune with who I am, then how can I help anyone? So that's really, what I try to be mindful of. But, sometimes it's in the darkest storms that, that you find the greatest recovery. I mean, you know what I'm saying? If that makes sense. But yeah, no, I didn't know them. So it was just basically something that I was moved to do. But even right now, like, it was a situation where I had a package delivered from UPS, and the, the driver had mixed up the package, but it's so much of a disconnect with neighbors that I live with now, is that, like, I've tried to be over there to them, seeing that the package was mine, but they didn't care to bring it over there. But, I still had to go back over there and get there, I mean, so it's just simple things like that, that everybody's not going to get it, but you still have to do your part. You still have to do your part.
I agree. I do think that, and it seems to be the theme that I see weaving itself in and out, is that, like, that self care, right? That's really a part of, because we're individuals inside of a community, of course, right? But if the individual ain't right, the community ain't gonna be right.
If everybody has that same mentality, I don't think that moving into a different narrative is going to happen. We're just too disconnected. We've become very self-centered.
What's that moral compass I was talking about earlier? If we're not on the same page morally,
Yeah. And so it was interesting. Like, I was been listening to all of this, the stories, and recollections, and one thing, because I do believe that we can be better, as a community, and I think that we have to be that. We have to be the examples. But I also know that some of the darkest places, Monique was saying, is that those storms are what define us and our character and what makes us even better, right? Like, what if we didn't have ways to test our character, to test our morals? Like, how would we know that it's this is what it should be, right? And so, even when you were talking about crime, and why is crimes unsolved, and which are terrible things, but, like, what if that means something else to someone else's story? Some testament that comes with the power of being better than what we are.
Okay, elaborate that on a little bit more.
So we gotta go through shit, right? We gotta go through things in order to even be the leaders, the powerful people we are right now, right? Like, all of us had to go through something. And so, I mean, I know we're looking at, like, how do we solve and be better? That's fine, but, like, we have to also remember in the balance that some of this stuff has to live in order for us to be better. And I know that's a real broad concept, but, like I said, I've been through some stuff, and I had to go through it before I can even be the man that I am now. And sometimes that's getting beat up. That's, like, that's going to jail. It could be a bunch of things.
I agree. I mean, of course, in order for you to have the experience, you have to go through the lesson, right?
Yeah. because I've definitely committed some crimes in my life.
Hell, I think we all have, really. I mean, to be honest. It's just, I think it's just more a matter of standing 10 toes down in what you believe. Right is right and wrong is wrong. If you never speak on it, then you basically condone it. Is really what it is. And even if you don't condone it, if you don't say anything, like they say, closed mouths don't get fed.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say condone if you don't speak.
Well, I mean, if
on
you're
it.
not saying anything, you might as well be condoning it because you're not doing anything to correct it.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a such thing as fear. You know, a lot of people go through life, living their life, making decisions based off fear. A lot of people might not intervene in a situation, in a potentially violent situation. Why? Out of fear. Does that mean they condone that violent act because they didn't intervene? No, they were scared.
You don't necessarily have to intervene, but you can play a part. I mean, just even reaching out to the police, you don't have to tell them who you are. You know what I mean? They do allow you to call anonymously or whatever the case may be. So if you do have that fear, then stay fearful in your home, but get the situation dealt with. You know what I mean? Because the longer things fester, the worse things tend to get. And so that's why I say, if you don't say anything, then you technically are condoning it.
Let me push back, right? Because like that's who are we to determine, something for someone else? Like we don't always know the integral parts, right? And again, I'm only playing devil advocate because I do believe that you got to step in, but if it calls for that, not everything needs to be stepped into.
I can agree with that. I don't disagree with that at all.
Well,
but
yeah,
it's
liken it to like like I said, a lot of people, a lot of grandmas, a lot of aunties, a lot of elderly folk, they might feel a little terrorized in certain neighborhoods because of the gang presence, right? So it's like, if they witness a violent act, shooting, somebody getting beat, they might not call the police. Why? Because they don't want any potential backlash from that gang. So that's what I'm saying. First law of nature is self-preservation. So it's not that they necessarily condone that gang doing that violence, but they're like, shoot, I got to live in this neighborhood. If they find out it was
right, and
me,
then those are the same people that sit back and say how bad it is and why this is not happening and why that is not happening. You see what I'm saying? So it's not, you can't ride the fence when it comes to the situation.
No, what I'm saying is that's true. But like I said, you got to preserve yourself, right? Are you're saying everybody ain't no hero. Heroes die a lot of times,
Which is very true. And again, that goes right back to what I said in the beginning. If you're not going to put yourself right in harm's way or make your presence known, you do have an option. And so that, again, goes back to what I was saying. People usually only reach out to the police for medical emergencies. But then you can't then sit back and say, I just don't know why this is going on. And, it keeps going. It's going to keep going if there's never any intervene, whether it be yourself, your neighbor, or you having to include the law. People tend not to do things if they know that fear is there. Like, oh, if I do this over here, they're going to call the police on me. People tend to shy away from doing the shit right there. You know what I'm saying? You go 3 blocks down and then people ain't dealing with that shit either. You push it out. That's what ends up happening.
That's if you're dealing with reasonable people.
And that's what I keep on telling you, is that people are not in their right mind, and we can't always account for them.
So we just let it keep going like that. No, that's what I'm trying to understand.
I'm not saying that, Key, but you're trying to make them logical and rational human beings, and they're not always, if at all, and that's okay. You do what you can, but but let's not forget, as Dee was saying, that self-preservation, that is instinctual. It's hard to fight against nature, and that is to preserve ourselves. That's nature. So if we're afraid of something, and because fear is also perception, right? Like, we got where do we get our fears from? Is what's given to us, right? And so if you're plugged in to all the other things going on, like you could be afraid of everything. But and so preservation means being in your living room, not doing nothing, which is also a problem too, right? Like, but self-preservation is one of our most instinctual places, and people are comfortable with that. It don't mean I got to go against the norm. Like I said, heroes die, and it's a tall order. It's a hard task if you're going to.
It's really a sacrifice. Really,
Yes.
you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's a sacrifice, and it's like to what degree? This kind of goes back to our last conversation when Shai was saying, like, there has to be more people willing to be the sacrifice sometimes, because me being a parent, like, I'd be in fear for my child, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's the reason why I am so outspoken, and I do speak up, and like I do those things because I'm like, I want my child to be able to live too. But if you just keep allowing things to go on and on and on, it just gets worse and worse and worse.
Is she like that?
No,
She's not. She's fearless, like I was when I was younger, which is scary as hell to me, because I'm like, we grew up in different days and times. You know what I'm saying? Now we just have that where nobody intervenes.
Well, I mean, but let's just be honest. I mean, there's not a lot of people I know that would want to be a martyr. Not a lot of people I know that would want to sacrifice themselves for, for any cause, for as far as their life is concerned, or their family's life.
I actually think that a lot of us are martyrs without even knowing that we're martyrs. You know what I mean? Like, okay, for instance, you and I, we hang around the same people, right?
Yeah.
And we always diffuse our own situations. That's technically being a martyr.
No,
you might not have lost your life in the situation, you know what I'm saying? But you prevented some shit that could have blew out of proportion.
I think you're mistaking a good Samaritan with martyr.
Okay.
The Good Samaritan are the ones that do the good deeds. Isn't that the martyrs are the ones that willingly sacrifice themselves?
They die.
But you could potentially be that.
No, but what I'm saying, you don't willingly do it knowing you're gonna die. It's like you basically on a suicide mission, basically. How many people are willing to, all right, I'm gonna go in this situation and I know I'm not coming out, but I know my sacrifice will be for the greater good. Most people ain't willing to go there.
Damn. So we're saying, like, doing the right thing is like a suicide mission.
No.
And that's crazy as hell to me.
That's what Kia is trying to say. That's what Kia is trying to say. I'm saying doing the right thing is just being a good Samaritan. A martyr is somebody putting on.
But what I'm saying, so what I'm trying to say, I understand what you're saying as far as the good Samaritan goes, but we've been in situations where everybody that we with is packing heat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's one of those things when you do step in, if that person is just already on the edge and just that one little thing is ready to push them off the edge, you are putting yourself in a martyr situation. Accidents happen. It might, you know what I'm saying? Things just happen like that. But anytime you step in, you do potentially put yourself as a martyr situation.
Yeah, but like I said, if you knew you was gonna die if you stepped in, you wouldn't step in.
Depends on the situation.
That's what I say. It depends on the situation, because you really don't know. You really don't know.
No. But see, that's the difference between a good Samaritan and a martyr. The martyr knows he's going to die. The good Samaritan does not. That's the difference.
I don't think all those martyrs went out there with the intention of becoming a martyr.
A lot of
Does that
them
make
know.
sense?
A lot of
Who are
them
you
know.
talking? Who are you talking about? You
Yeah,
know,
there's a lot of people who do. Monique, did you want to jump in, or
I just had a
TD?
question. So if you were speaking your truth, if you were confronting a situation that you see is not, it's not all factual, and in speaking your truth, someone told you, well, you know what, I'll give you a pass. Like, is that a threat on my life for speaking the truth? What is considered a pass if me speaking my truth is, so if me speaking my truth is getting a pass, does that mean me speaking my truth was a death sentence or a death wish for, like, what does meaning, oh, you get a pass for speaking your truth, but don't say that again?
well, it depends. You know, threat is only as good as the person it comes from. So, pass. I've given passes from physicality, ass whoopings, and I've
Okay.
given passes from blasting a motherfucker. So
Okay.
it just all depends on the scenario,
Okay.
you know.
Okay.
TD, you want to say something?
Like I was saying, just depending on the situation, and because of the lifestyle I'm currently in, I mean, I'm kind of always in the line of fire. So, with that being said, you never know, and that's the whole martyr thing. I mean, no, but yes, I will put my life on the line for any of my brothers.
Would you give your life?
Not on purpose.
Then that's not a martyr.
So, like I said, probably that pertains nothing to the martyr piece, but yes, I do put my life on the line, but not give it up on purpose. No, like be a suicide bomber. No.
Right. Yeah, because there's only, like I said, let's just be honest. There's only a few people in all of our lives that we would probably willingly give our life for. You know what I'm saying? There's not a lot of people that we would willingly do that for. Now, would we risk harm to ourselves? That's one thing, but we're hoping we make it out of it. But no, I'll willingly lay down my life for my moms, for my brother. I'll go with a smile. It's not a problem. But I can't say that about it. You know what I'm saying? Every situation. No, I've risked my life a million damn times, and thank God I've come out unscathed, but I didn't do it with the, saying I'm going to go give my life to save my homie and da-da-da-da-da. No, I'll go risk it and hope that I make it out alive.
So I do have a story of a guy that I knew. He was out at a club downtown Denver. An altercation broke out. He stepped in to diffuse the situation, and his life was taken. I honestly don't believe that he went in there with the intention to be a martyr, but he was.
You talking about Clarence?
Yep.
But like I said, you got to look at the definition of what a martyr is. Christ was if anybody believe Christ was a martyr, he knew he was going to die, and he accepted that because that was his mission. See what I'm saying? You don't accidentally get killed or this and that, and that's a martyr. That's not the definition. It's strapping on a bomb, going and blowing yourself up for your cause. That is a martyr, knowing you ain't gonna make it.
And that's the only scenario that it can be.
I mean, you could become a
that's the definition.
But a martyr is not a martyr. I mean, a martyr doesn't consider themselves a martyr, right? Like that's society that considers them a martyr. And so, like you were saying with Jesus,
not in the Arabic world. In the Arabic world, they're talking about.
No, but you brought up Jesus Christ, though, right? You said Jesus Christ knowingly, and so by that definition, that's a martyr. But Jesus Christ wasn't going around saying I'm a martyr. It was society that said, okay, you're a martyr, because a lot of people consider Dr. King Jr. and Mahatma Gandhi martyrs, right? But they didn't. That's not why they were doing it. They didn't do it like. And even if they knew death was coming, the purpose was more important than that. There's always a risk, but it wasn't them who determined that. It was society. And so you can go out doing the right thing, and then society doesn't really consider it a martyr. You're not a martyr. Like even if you are a suicide bomber, like, and you go do that, it's the people who are left that have to consider you that.
No, them in the Arabic world, they're promised 70 virgins in heaven, and you get what I'm saying? They know that, hey, you can martyr yourself and give yourself for this cause, you're gonna have 70 virgins in heaven and blah blah. You see what I'm saying? So I mean, it's different from culture to culture. And not only that, but martyrs, of course, they're not gonna say, you know what, I'm gonna go sacrifice myself. No, that they're not gonna say that.
That's what
That,
I
like
was
I said,
taking from what you were saying, though, is that
that's for the
that
people.
everybody that has been labeled a martyr went in with the intention of dying. Like, I don't think that that's the case at all. And I really think that that whole definition of martyr is not what it needs to be, because at the end of the day, like with the George Floyd situation, I simply stated that I don't think that George Floyd is a martyr. I don't think so. But society labels him a martyr.
Because they don't know what the definition of martyr is.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. They label him because he gave his death for a cause, right? Like, or so.
No,
that's,
he didn't.
I know. I'm saying that is society's. That's a society has shaped it that way. I'm not saying that's why he
retroactively made his death a martyr.
Yes,
retroactively.
Yeah,
and that's usually how people end up labeled martyrs.
No. Well, but like I said, but I'm just saying the definition.
Yeah, it's a good start.
Yeah.
Mo, you got feedback. Do you have your headphones on?
Don, did you want to react to anything that was being said? I thought I heard you jump in.
I did. Yeah, I didn't want to intervene, but yeah, I agreed. I mean, we all looked up I looked up the definition of martyr, and it's related to religion. So if a person is not religious, when they say that George Floyd is a martyr, they might put it in the context of his death turned into a purpose. So then you're going to tell all of them are martyrs then, because they all of their deaths turned into a purpose. Accidentally.
But it's retroactive.
And then I was thinking of a situation. Right. So I'm thinking of a situation that I would be in, where I purposely went and got certified to bear arms so that I will never be in a situation where I will be a martyr. I don't want to die on accident for nobody's purpose as a Black person. So I think of instances every time, and I know some of the men do it maybe more than the women. You guys are more hypersensitive of your surroundings and play out scenarios in the case of an emergency, if something happens, and you with whoever. That's how I do too. I play out scenarios. So if I'm in Walmart and I carry. So I have it in my car. I keep one in my purse at all times. So I always play out what would happen if I got put in an active shooter situation. And of course, if the opportunity presents itself for me to defend myself or anyone else.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
I think I lost Don. I think you fell off. I'm not for sure what happened. I will say I'm similar to Don too. Like, if that opportunity presented itself and I am carrying, I absolutely will have to step in and play that role. That's the whole purpose of doing the concealed to carry and things of that nature, because you basically do become a foot soldier.
Well,
okay.
You still got to pick and choose your battle.
D, that's you. That's you with the echo.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
So, I still got it?
Nope, it's gone.
No, I said, in any situation, you got to pick and choose your battles. Uh, I had a conversation with some cats at work, and they, about the whole Aurora Theater shooting. And now none of these cats have been in shootouts, and none of them experienced, none of them street people. Small town, rural white folk. And they talking about, I'm surprised no one in the theater had a gun. One in, I think, every 20 people have concealed carries and blah, 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 blah. I'm surprised no one, tried to counter the gunman. And I was just like, dude, stop. I said, even if somebody was in there, most of them was pissing their damn pants. And because most people ain't never been shot at to know how to keep their composure under fire. And that's just a fact. And I said, dude threw in a smoke bomb for one. He's lighting up everything with an AR-15, and you gonna pull out your little pea shooter and try to knock him down. And he got body armor head to toe. He would have laid your ass out. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. Just because you carry, you still got to pick and choose your battle.
Yeah.
I think we learned that from Philando Castile.
Go ahead, Monique.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you were talking about Castile.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when we speak about George Floyd, I think that it triggers me back to Philando. Like, here is someone who was licensed to carry, and that didn't mean anything. That didn't mean anything. So it's still, I don't know.
Well, I'm going to say when I took my training, our instructor did state that there are ways to advise an officer that you are carrying without making it a hostile or nervous situation. Stating that when they come and approach your vehicle, you don't have to volunteer, but it's a good idea in case the stop turns into something else, right? So he was saying that when you give them your driver's license, you can slip your permit underneath it so that when they look at it, they can see that you have it. The situation is then diffused.
No, that's that I don't know, kid. We talking about people who are institutionalized. It's institutionalized racism and racism and trauma. Let's not forget that cops are also putting their life on the line on a regular basis, right? And so they're more alert than and respond in that way because of all of the shit that they got to go through, right? And so when you could do everything right and it still doesn't matter.
I think it just depends on you. I think I really do. Like, I really think that, again, because it's just like you said, they go out there and they risk their lives every day. I'm not going to put the perception that all cops have the idea of, when I stop this person, my objective is to kill him. I can't agree with that. But what I will say is that I feel like with them doing that level of a dangerous job, you as the person that has to have interaction with them should be as calm as possible too. So for instance, last night I had to go through a DUI checkpoint. I put a smile on the cop's face. You know what I mean? I could have, look, I had my gun on me. It could have turned into a bad situation. You know what I'm saying? It could have turned into a bad situation. But when he walked up to the window, I just kind of cracked a joke, lightened the whole mood. You see what I'm saying? So I just really think that it's how you carry yourself. You know what I'm saying? You're showing a sense of nervousness. Situational awareness. And I already know, you know what I'm saying? They do have a heightened level of fear and all that extra stuff or whatever, but not everybody has that. You know what I'm saying? Just you control the situation. As much as you think you don't, you really do. Because they're already coming to you with the idea that something can transpire. That is what they thought as soon as they hit the lights or whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's already what's been placed there. When they come to the window, you show them that there's no reason for you to be in fear. It changes the whole mood. And it's happened to me multiple times. Multiple.
Would you say in trauma that people are actively conscious of their behavior and words?
When you say trauma, elaborate a little bit. Give me an idea.
Or you're being triggered. So again, if you are used to, whenever you see police lights getting pulled over as a black man, and let's say you're in the South, right? And you're getting beat up, you know what I mean? Or most times that there's police involved, and so you get pulled over and you're saying, hey,
that's not something that I personally can answer because I'm not a black man. I know. With the police, I don't instantly get nervous and freak out.
That's what I'm saying to you is that there are some unseen forces, that are playing here, right? And so if I'm nervous as hell, like it's gonna be hard for me.
But for what though? That's my question.
Because every time I see the police officer, yes, every time I see.
And as a black woman, yes. I'm sorry, Stu, but as a black woman, I can say that I'm triggered. So it does have to be because it's past trauma. It's past trauma when I've called the police as been the victim, and I'm treated as the victimizer. You know what I'm saying? So it's having to diffuse the situation, and sometimes it doesn't matter how kind you are. Right. There just are a pistol trigger happy fucking police officer that you smell one more time and I might pump your ass. So what I'm saying is like it's different situations for different people. So yeah, you do have to. It's trauma. You know what I'm saying? So you can't. And it really it comes with empathy because you can't sympathize because you're not in that trigger state, but you have to empathize because it is people out here that yes, them red and blue is a trigger for me. So before I can process that I'm not the one in trouble, I have to deprogram. You know what I'm saying? I have to deprogram myself to be able to deal with it to get the help that I need because I'm the one that dispatched you, or you pulled me over because I thought I turned on my blinker and I fucking didn't. You know what I'm saying? So yes, when you pull me over, I have the right to ask you, what did you pull me over for? I have that right. You know what I'm saying? So yes, I have to bring that tone down because I'm not snapping. I'm scared because I want to make it home.
Okay. I can understand that.
But understand this though. You can ask the police officer whatever you want. They're not obliged to telling you until after you give them their license and they run everything, and then they come back and give you a ticket and be like, hey, I'm writing you a ticket for blah, 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 or I'm giving you a warning for blah, 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 blah. They don't have to answer your questions before you give them, because some people do that. Well, I'll give you my license, but first tell me what you pulled me over for. It don't work like that. Yeah.
I learned in defense that you're right. You have to have your credentials, your license, registration, insurance, but then you also have the right to ask them, can I have your card? Like you have to, yes. We all have to be law-abiding citizens, but in the midst of being a law-abiding citizen, we have to hold them accountable too. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, you're not my enemy because it's going to be a point that I'm gonna need you. But I think that it has to take those conversations. That's just like restorative justice. Like right now, my daughter owes $800 to the Denver Police Department. And do you know that I've asked them for restorative justice? I've asked for just a common ground to speak with this officer. And do you know what they told me? Do you really want that? Well, why wouldn't I want that as a mother, a community member? Because again, what I'm half of, I'm trying to get whole. So when I become whole, I take half of that and then I give it to someone else who doesn't have half of what I have. So the whole thing is that it has to take a joint effort. But if I'm not understanding where we went wrong and you're asking, why do I want to have a restorative justice with the officer? Well, yeah, I want to know what happened to this phone. What happened to this phone? But in the midst of her phone being stolen, we still owe the police $800. You know what I'm saying? So it's that, okay, what's going on? Where is the breakdown of communication when it comes to police and community, when it comes to trauma, non-trauma, different situations, but it's still the basis of trauma, when it all goes back to mental health.
I think that has to be said over and over and over again. Mental health is this invisible enemy of ours.
I agree 100%. I absolutely agree 100%. But I am one of those people that I do take accountability for my actions, because that's the only thing that at the end of the day that I can control. You know what I'm saying? I approach situations with hopes for the best, and if it does go a little sideways, because I have had incidents where things have gotten out of hand with the police and things of that nature, but I had to go back and self-reflect. What did I do that made that officer handle me in that manner? You know what I'm saying? And when I thought about it, I knew exactly what I did that made that officer react with me the way that they did. So I think it just goes back to that. And a lot of the times people just tend to ignore their action in the situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of education needs to come. Everybody on both sides, the community and police. We got to be educated, but particularly on the civilian side of the game, people need to be educated to where, like I said, yeah, your traumas can come into play. I get that, but people got to know, bro, if you got an outstanding warrant or you doing this or that, and the police are dead set on arresting you, it's at that point, bro, you're gonna get arrested either the easy way or the hard way. So why are you fighting? Why are you resisting? Because that resistance shit can compound into just a whole lot of unnecessary stuff. I could, and not only that, but even if you feel like you are 100% innocent, I didn't do nothing wrong, blah 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 blah, we still do this the easy way or the hard way. But once them cops is dead set on putting them cuffs on you, I mean, unless you really ready to go to war with them with some gunplay, I mean, bro, you're not gonna win that battle. 9 times out of 10, you're not gonna win.
I agree 100%, because again, going back to that particular situation, that officer pulled up to me and she had an attitude. Her attitude made me have an attitude. You know what I'm saying? And so when she came back with my license and stuff and asked me to step out of the car, I was trying to arrange for, because I had my daughter with me, I was trying to arrange for someone to come and get me, because I'm coming get my daughter, because I clearly am getting ready to go to jail. You know what I mean? So I was trying to finish my conversation, and when I stepped out the car, I still had the phone trying to tell them where I was, and the officer asked me to put my arm behind my back, and I didn't do it as fast as she wanted me to do it. So when she grabbed my arm, I yanked away from her, and that woman twisted my arm up and slammed me to the ground. And it escalated so fast. But again, I reflected. What did I do that made her react like that?
Right.
I yanked away from her. That's exactly what I did. I can admit that. And I think that's a lot of the problem. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of self-reflect. You have to realize you get back what you put out.
But just real quick here, sometimes those police officers they'll give you an order or command and you ain't got but a split second to do it, or like you said, they slamming you up against something. Like they need to, and that's why I said the education needs to be there. It's like, police need to understand that a lot of civilians are kind of, like you said, traumatized or in shock that they're even interacting with police. For what? They don't know they're going to jail, they're getting a ticket, so they're kind of in shock already. So a person traumatized or in shock, if you tell them to get down on the ground or put their hands up, it might take literally a second or two to register. You see what I'm saying? It's not like they're not trying. Yeah, it's not like people are trying to be non-compliant. It's just they're in shock. They're in awe. Dang, their command ain't registering to as quickly as a lot of these officers think it should. And that's where the re-education of these officers need to come into play at. Like, give a
And I
person a
agree
couple
with that
seconds.
too. I absolutely do agree with that as well. But like I was saying, so in that time in my life, I was not as upstanding citizen as I am now. And all my interactions with the police during that time of my life were completely different than what they are now.
Yeah.
Can I give some insight without this phone cutting me off?
Yep.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So I was, during my time as a correctional officer, I can give you guys insight that those officers are scandalous for the most part. They're not educated all the way as far as correctional officers go, and you can use this as a benchmark for state and federal level correctional officers, for the sheriff's department and the police department, especially in Aurora and Colorado, because of the ones that I've known and came across. It's definitely, at the end of the day, that person's personality. It don't matter. We can take the same training every year. Some of them officers, all the way from the regular, from the level 1 officers to the sheriff, to the sergeants, to the lieutenants, to the captains. The personality is what dictates how they act with those inmates. And I had a supervisor that was a young black girl that was a sergeant over me as a correctional officer. She was my undoing. We had to restrain a black woman, and her name was Wiley, and she was off the chain. She had came from the feds, and we had her in the holding cell. We knew already, like, she was a combative type of person. And the sergeant, she was being compliant. And first, she sent me and an elderly woman who was a super correctional officer, because they don't care how old you are. She was like 40, 50 something years old, and she sent me and that woman in to restrain her first. But I had a rapport with Wiley, even though I did not like that offender. I was able to go in there and talk to her, and I said, "Look, you're gonna have to spread prone on the ground and put your hands behind your back, because where she was at, the camera, you didn't have any camera vision, so it had a camera, but the supervisor, that sergeant, knew where the camera was going to be, where the blind spots were. So the minute Wiley said, okay, she was going to be compliant, she was like, man, y'all tripping. So she was talking shit, but she was moving to the ground. Just as she was getting ready to get on her knees, the sergeant comes from behind me and busts between us and grabs her from while she's already getting down in a vulnerable spot and slams her on the concrete. And at that point, she's already mad. So then we all have to get in it. And because it's not on camera, later when we did our report, because once again, everybody sticks together, our reports don't get passed unless the lieutenant approves the reports. So we can write what we want. The lieutenant will keep sending you your report back if it doesn't say the right shit. So, of course, I had to omit and take out the fact that she threw that girl on the floor. And she actually got appraised. They gave her like an achievement award for that, for being able to put the girl down, because it got bad after that. It was about 6 of us. Not only did we have to put a spit harness on her after that, because she was so mad that shit happened, that we had to cut her out of her clothes and do all kinds of stuff. She tried to bite me. It was horrible. It was like a horrible, and all that was on camera. But that initial takedown, it wasn't on camera, and nobody talked about it anymore. And that's what made me stop. Can you guys hear me?
That big ass
Yeah.
So it is. Those officers are horrible. I'm gonna tell you right now. I've dealt with the racist ones, and it's their personality. It's where they were raised up. Talking to them, sitting with them in different groups, dealing with the ones and they all interchange with each other. If you're not a correction officer, then you can go apply for sheriff, then you can go apply for another county, or you can go apply for police, and they all just apply for each other. And everybody knows everybody, And yeah, they do it on purpose. I've sat in meetings listening to them talk and laugh at offenders and talk about people. And I've had to stand up for some of the offenders who I know they're good people, but they just get treated bad, you know. And they pre-plan shit. They talk about what they're gonna do, who they're gonna do what to, whose pod time they gonna take because they mad they gotta stay over. All that shit. It's horrible.
That is ridiculous. I honestly feel like the commissioners and hiring managers of these police and correctional officers, they do need to be doing mental evaluations on these people when they come in to serve the community.
They
Because
do.
that's dangerous. That's
They do, but
dangerous to
it's set
have
up to
people in there
still.
with those mentalities.
Yeah, it's crazy, and you would think you would be like, nah, they wouldn't. They tested to get to this place. They tested, but they just test to pass the test. They don't pass. They don't test because they
I
really
don't think it
feel
should
in
be a
their heart
test. I
that
think
they
it needs
have a
to be
moral
more of a
compass.
mental evaluation. And I've said that same thing as far as
They
even
do.
people having
I'm
They
children.
telling you,
do.
when I did the sheriff's department,
They do.
they did a mental evaluation. They do a polygraph on you. So if you pass the polygraph, and you pass the 400 and something question mental eval and talking to the therapist, if you pass all that, then you get in there. But those questions are not set up to ask you about your. You would think they ask you about. They just ask you, did you steal a pen?
I
Did you
personally
steal a
don't think
pen?
that the written questions would help. I really think you need to be sitting down talking to some goddamn body, not writing down questions, because are you
Right,
really giving a real answer? Or are you giving what they want to say? Because I already
right.
know. Even
And
interviewing
then
for any job, it doesn't even have to be correctional. Like, you basically tell employers what they want to hear so you can get the job.
no, and that's not just it.
But
It's
if
who
you're
you know.
speaking, that's not really something that you can do.
No, it's who you know. The same girl I told you, this young black girl, her godmother was the lieutenant. She gave her a 5-star review when she had took home some handcuffs. When you take home handcuffs or keys of the facility, you get a write up. She didn't get no damn write up, and then I had to bring fucking handcuffs in for her on her behalf. She was like, "Drop these off for me," because she was my supervisor. But if it was me or anybody else, if you take handcuffs home or anything that's property of the state and you don't drop it off and turn it back in and somebody catches it, you get written up. But she didn't. She actually got promoted to case manager. And I was looking at
That's
her
a
because
major
she was
problem.
stupid. She left her 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 review in one of the offices with me, and I read the review, and the review said she is great. She's done above and beyond. And this bitch, she was dumb as a box of rocks, and she was
Mm.
not supposed to be in that position as a sergeant.
You know, it's funny because a long time ago I read a article about how a lot of police officers' psych evals are similar to criminals' psych evals in a lot of ways, and and it, and so it's not surprising when you see a lot of police acting like criminals just with a badge on,
They
and
are, because I mean,
like
yeah,
but the whole saying, absolute power corrupts absolutely. That don't stop because you got a badge on. That's human nature for the most part.
right.
It
And then some
don't
of those people
just because you
shouldn't be over another person. You shouldn't have the
right,
rights to be over another person. They don't have leadership of themselves, so they
right.
come there and they revel in the fact that they can tell this human being that
Yep,
they losing their pot time or
yep.
they're losing something, and not every offender is innocent, but most of them have mental disability and mental illnesses that don't get addressed that got them in there in the first place, and they can't go to a hospital because they're too violent, and so they get stuck in
Mhm.
this middle point. And I've dealt with them also, but when you're dealing with them, you just cannot, you can't be that person to mentally mess with them. And after these officers have been in the position for years and years, like the projects in San Francisco that I grew up in, it was this man called Iceman, and he was they knew, like, all the guys, they would pay him off so that he can, not take them to jail and shit. He just be running around taking people's cash. And when you selling,
Yeah,
that's all you carry on you. You don't have a bank account. So they
I
just
know
take
some,
your cash, especially Christmas come, they snatching everybody's stuff.
I've known some police like that.
Yeah, you have to give them
That
cash,
is so
and they
so
just
so unfortunate.
They taking dope and cash and letting you walk. I mean, it's some scandalous police officers I've known about over the years.
Wow. Wow, wow,
Mhm.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so get them, and
That's horrible.
I'm not going to be optimistic about this reform of police officers because they are who they are, and they're always going to be able to work for each other. The captain that was over me, we got into it multiple times, and he told me that if I can't take the heat, get out the kitchen. But it was because I told him he was married. He was married to the guy that's over everything, the warden's sister. And I'm like, you shouldn't be in this position because you don't know how to lead nobody. Like, you're young. All of y'all are young. Y'all be Facebooking each other, and that's all you care about. So when it comes down to really taking care of these offenders, no, you don't. You be talking crazy to them and treating them like shit. Should not be in that
Shit.
position.
That's a great whole nother layer of something else we'd have to uncover.
Well,
So,
it could be another topic of discussion, but like I said, that's a difficult position to be in the sense that, especially for the uneducated ones, and just there's a lot of dumbass officers. Let's just be honest; they ain't the
they
smartest damn
really
group of.
are.
They ain't the smartest group of people on the planet,
You
and
don't get a
but
degree.
right, and so when you give people that much power with impunity, you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh,
Hmm.
I can literally kill you and get away with it. I mean, that type of power, most humans are not capable of handling and dealing with, and being honest with, and righteous with.
Right. And I promise you, like, so if you want to, and I got 1,000 stories, but in the men's side, they have a unit 4 that's for the STG groups, which is security threat groups that are the gangs, and they're the most violent ones. They can't even share a cell with nobody. They by themselves, and it's before you get transferred. And there was a guy who was mad that he was being held over, he was being pulled from the unit, and I was coming onto the unit. So he purposely turned the lights on and pissed everybody off because they were supposedly looking for an item that came up missing, but it wasn't. Turned everybody's lights on, stressed everybody out before he got off shift, before he moved. So I came on. I had to deal with, these are offenders that would not hesitate to tear your ass up. They got life for whatever they did. And that's the kind of games that these uneducated officers be playing with other people's lives and stuff. It's crazy.
Mm.
That is so disheartening. That is so disheartening.
Yeah. So they need to redo the whole thing, hire a whole different set, just clean the slate, get rid of all of them that have been in there 10, 15 years because they're the ones that are corrupt. They have to screen us. They have to screen us to make sure that the officers don't bring stuff in because apparently that runs really high.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, but the crazy thing is when you can get drugs and whatnot, cell phones and whatnot, as easily in prison
Right.
as you can on the street. I mean,
Oh,
what's crazy is the wardens have to be in on this. Everybody up the chain of command got to be in on this because they know about all this,
right.
and
They walking off in the
it's like,
bathroom having sex with women, getting women
right,
pregnant. How you get pregnant and you in the women's prison?
right, exactly. So I mean, literally corruption. It's either corruption or uh, 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 negligence, as far as turning a blind eye to what you know is
Hmm.
going on. You know.
Ugh, that is so disgusting. So, so
And that's what
disgusting.
we got to
Ew.
deal with. So you have all these police officers that are not responsible and don't know how to take accountability, and they're childish. They're not educated. So I don't know all this money they could put into the re-education. None of that. No.
Well, I mean, what is it? How long is it? 6 months to become a police officer? 6 weeks or 6 months?
It's 6 months to
Yeah,
get your certification as a police officer, but you can be in federal, or you can be in the private, or you can be a correctional officer. And you only have to do
Right.
6 weeks of training. You don't
Right.
have to
I
get
mean,
the certification.
I mean,
Six weeks.
it's a crying damn shame when it takes longer to become to be certified as a hairstylist,
Yes.
or you know what I'm saying? Like, it
Yep.
takes longer to become a hairstylist. You got to do what, 2 years in cosmetology school? But
Mm-hmm.
It's a year.
is it a year? But
It's a year.
someone who has the power of life and death in their hands, you know, got a fraction, got half of that training, or
Not even half. Clearly.
it's ridiculous. The
Right.
standards are ridiculous, and that's what needs to be reformed. The standards.
Right. Because I worked in the juvenile detention center, and one of the girls, most of them quit. It was a high turnover rate, but one of them, she was a cutter. And I'm like, how are you a cutter, and you in here with all your cuts showing, and you're working with these teens that are cutters?
wow.
Like, these are
Mm.
fresh cuts on you, girl. And she was fired, but I'm just saying, like, the mental stability for her to be over juveniles, it was,
Right.
and you just doing it, you just letting anybody.
Wow.
What can we
Crazy.
do as a community to reinstill our community policing, to not have them involved ever? TD, I would like to hear what you have to say as far as what you think we can do.
What we can do as a community.
Yeah, to kind of get more community policing in our community so that we can remove really having to have any dealings with these people, because listening to Don's story and talking about the training and the mental capacity of these officers, it's not even safe to even have to have any dealings with them whatsoever.
Okay. No, well, yeah, I mean, there are, yeah, I mean, outside of my organization, yeah, I mean, showing up at request, or, yeah, I mean, fight or flight response, yeah, I mean, to whatever's going on. There are certain groups out there, black militias. One of my brothers was a part of, where they assist and go out to the community. I forget the name of his organization, but they do policing within the community, I think on the east side in Park Hill, as of right now, but are growing into a much larger force.
Is there steps that have to be taken to, like, because, okay, so when you guys hit the pavement and you make your presence known within the streets to kind of diffuse some of the crime that's going on there, like, how do you guys do that? Do you just show up in a mass group, or is there like steps that you have to take, permits or licenses or something?
Well, we're talking about the militia capacity. No, it's just pretty much knowing your laws. I mean, because in one instance where they actually had a woman that was being battered by her boyfriend, who also had a weapon, they had about 10 guys show up, 2 posted on the outside, 2 posted on the door, 2 up, and then the other half of them upstairs, escorting the gentleman and making sure the lady was safe. And then when the cops got there, I mean, they're all armed, you know what I mean, all concealing, carrying, all that. They told the police about the situation. The police pretty much let them handle the part as the mitigation part of moving the woman out of the house. And that was it. And turned the boyfriend over to the police. So, like I said, I don't know the name of their organization. I know they're deep in the community and their force is becoming large. If it's more like the street soldier type of thing, then we'll probably be the last person you want to call, because we're not asking so many questions.
So Would you say that the best advice that you can give as far as community policing goes is just for the community to familiarize themselves with the laws?
Yeah, pretty much the laws. I mean, in your area, your county, there's a lot of laws. Even when you get pulled over, you know what I mean. You got to know your laws in Denver versus Aurora. I mean, like, if you've ever been pulled over for a lane change in Denver, you shouldn't have never been given a ticket. There's no such thing as a ticket for a lane change. And I've gotten those before, but not until X, Y years later. That, again, arming yourself with the knowledge of certain things. I mean, will you get a ticket like that? And you can argue yourself out of it. I mean, no different than you giving a judge permission to use your name a certain way. If you know your laws, you have to. But as a community part, yes, know your laws, and then I can definitely put in touch or have somebody reach out to you guys. I mean, about the community militia that one of my friends is actually a part of. Let's see if we can't get them more involved.
Yeah, that it would be nice to hear from them. So if you could do that, however we need to get the information to each other, that would be great. Because, I mean, those are horror stories that I just heard from Don and Dee. That I'm over here quite disgusted myself. That's just insane. Because we have to get some things in order, you know what I mean? Like, and so I wanted to have this podcast because, like I was saying, 4th of July weekend is coming up. And a lot of things do transpire over that weekend and so on and so forth because we have more things coming up or whatever. But I'm asking everybody on this panel and anybody that may see this podcast later on or whatever, that if you see something going on, if you feel comfortable or are around someone that is comfortable, to kind of step in and try to help diffuse some of this stuff. Because I mean, at the end of the day, we do need to unify. We do need to unify as a people. And I'm not just talking about our race in general, like, because regardless of what other people think, we are all connected in some form or fashion. And to me, it just seems like us as people, we are the targets of the law. So it would just be nice to see more people not entertain the bullshit and actually get something positive going so that we don't have to reach out to these outside entities to fix our own community.
I agree. That's a good idea.
I agree.
I think we lost Monique. I'm not sure if she was going to say more. But yeah, like, man, it's just a lot. I wanted to send out a message to people that just think in the situation, you know what I mean? Try to think about the situation from every aspect. What would the outcome be? If I handle this in a different manner, how can this outcome be different? More communication, less violence.
Yeah, I agree.
Did you have more to say, Monique? I know you cut off when you were in the middle of a sentence or something.
No, I was just saying, I agree exactly what you're saying. Just trying to continue to do my part the best I can.
We got to start speaking life into each other, because I really feel like that's where a lot of the hate and envy comes from. And this is just a really heavy topic. I'm sorry. I'm at a loss for words right now. Does anybody else have anything to add?
I think that is too, just really knowing our laws and knowing just the things that, just really knowing our rights, knowing our laws, because, as they were just speaking about the injustice injustices within the prisons. My son's father is doing 115 years, and a couple of times, he tried to get clemencies, but it's never made it out to prisons. And so, it's those people, I think, behind the walls that, like you said, whether, guilty or innocent, you still try to do your best to get through it. But in the midst of that, it's a lot of people who don't have that voice, who don't have that support. So, I think it is just trying to keep each other encouraged, but at the same time, equipping us with the tools, and the tools are the laws, the rules, the bills, the things that are affecting us, between those fine lines that we don't know about, so that we are more protected when it comes to just getting out here in community and protecting ourselves, because we can cite those, those laws, we can cite those rules, and when you do know knowledge, then people are sometimes taken back, like, oh wow, I think, and are a little less willing to get over. But not saying that it does not happen, but when you are equipped with knowing what you're facing a little bit more than just going blind, I think that it can give you a better outlook, even in situations that don't look so clear.
Does anybody else have anything to add? D?
Well, I would just say, we got to inspire each other. One of the best ways to inspire people is to, lead by example. And yes, leadership and fear don't go hand in hand.
Correct.
So we're gonna have to risk. More of us are gonna have to risk something. Excuse me. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I had. Just lead by example.
I just encourage less emotional response, because emotion does play a major factor in how people respond to things. Don't take everything as a personal attack. Learn the difference between constructive criticism and judgment.
Yeah, I think that's something that definitely takes time, and it has to be worked on for sure.
It does. And just a little bit every day helps. You know what I mean? You always have to keep in the front of your mind that only you can control how you react, and not everything requires a reaction.
I agree.
Okay.
Indeed.
Maybe, did you have anything else? Go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with you.
TD, did you have any more? Did you have anything that you wanted to add last minute? I'm not for sure if he's there anymore. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and close with that. Just let's try to have a less violent weekend. We just had one this past weekend, not the one that literally just passed, but the previous one. It was a trip and really unnecessary. So just keep it in the front of your mind. Not everything requires a reaction. Some things are just okay, I will say things only live if you give it life. So if it's not something that's going to benefit in the long run, don't give it any life, and it dies. So I want to thank everybody for coming in and us having this conversation. This one was kind of heavy. So, yeah, I look forward to the next segment. Thanks, you guys. Make sure you subscribe to the video. If you want to share, you can go ahead and share it. I will have some shorter versions of this long conversation out on the Facebook page. They'll also be on the YouTube page. So go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.